what you wanna do, because I'm happy. So what do you want to talk about tonight? Since it's just you, you get a private lesson.
I'm just here to listen.
Just here to listen? Okay.
I don't know. I'm just kind of a detached kind of person, so I'm trying to figure out how to become unattached.
You mean to connect with people? Or connect in general?
Connect with people in general.
Mm. When you say detached, what does that mean exactly? From your perspective?
In a lot of relationships, I always have one foot out the door.
One foot out the door? Okay.
Hi, welcome.
I know it going in, and I know it, like, so even like with my ex-husband, I mean, we were married 21 years, but I was always waiting for, to me, there's no forever.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's always,
Have you always felt that way, or did it go back to a certain time in your life?
Well, it was when I was younger. I had the philosophy where I wouldn't let anyone hurt me. I would leave before they were able to. You know, everything could be fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt, okay, everything's great. Let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it was, you're just like, why? Or like, why? Like, there was no explanation. It was just kind of one of those things that I'd rather end it first before hand it on me.
Okay. Did you notice that did the split happen at kind of like the similar stages in every relationship, or was there, a specific turning point where it was either go left or go right, and most times they went left?
No, it was just everybody's been different. Like, had a boyfriend at like 2.5 years, and he wanted to get married and stuff like that. And I was just like, kind of. I always tell people like in a relationship with that I kind of give a 2 weeks notice,
Mm-hmm.
and then move on like to the next person.
I'm curious, what do you do for a living?
I'm a train dispatcher.
Train dispatcher,
Mm-hmm.
like for Amtrak, or?
Mhm.
Oh, cool. Wow, that's got to be like an air traffic controller, only worse.
Yeah, because I actually talked to air traffic controller, and they said my job's harder because they can always change levels,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm stuck.
Yeah, you can't pick up the track and move it.
Well, I didn't think of it that way, but yeah.
When you can't make the train go around to this runway, it doesn't quite work that way, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I've just always been like discarded for,
Okay.
that's what I guess like people call it. Or
Mm-hmm. And are you happy that way, or is there something else you'd rather have?
I don't know, I think I'm fine until someone points out like why am I doing, like the partner or whatever is just like, oh, I think everything was great, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I know eventually it'll get to a point where you'll want something else or something different, so I might as well just for now go. And I can't be friends with any of my like exes. That's another thing too.
Mm-hmm.
It's either all or nothing.
Right on.
That's thinking maybe I'll learn something that will take her.
Well, I hope so. I hope
Figure out why.
at least give you a place to start looking. Sometimes it's the kind of questions that we ask that yield answers that are more useful.
But yeah, and I don't even know like what I should do.
All right.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, we'll start from the very beginning, from approaching and all the way up through relationship maintenance and things like that. So, did you get some of the index cards when you came in?
Yes.
Those you can either use those to ask questions, or some people like to use them to take notes. More than welcome to do either one. So.
You said you wanted it back.
Yes, I did. Hello. What's new and exciting in your world? You're all sparkly today.
In my world, not much.
Not much?
Okay. Oh, by the way, you have any pets?
Any pads?
Yeah.
As in,
Dogs, cats, or anything.
oh, pets. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Only daughters,
Oh.
but I've got 3 of those.
Oh, you have 3 daughters?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought you just had one.
No, I have a 23-year-old, a 5-year-old,
Really?
and a 1-year-old.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, keeps me busy.
I bet it does. No, because I'm a pet sitter.
Oh, okay.
So I was going to give you my card if you have dogs.
I
or
think
cats.
Candy has pets. My faithful assistant, our office manager back there. She's a pet sitter. So if you want somebody to sit on your pets,
Which is already-
feeling like a rolling stone. Come on, get happy. Come on in. Hey, how you doing? Got my rock star. Got my rock moves. Let's see. Lighten up, guys. It's a party. Come on in. Life is good. Film at 11. I have an interesting demographic. I never get kids anymore. Ah! Am I blonder now? Well, I don't feel quite as smart as I used to be, so perhaps. Yes, I get my hair lighted. I've been getting it highlighted now for over 10 years. I started when I was living in Oklahoma, and I decided to try to get back into acting in movies and things like that.
Were you an actor?
Oh yeah, very much. hmm And had an image consultant look at me and says, "You need color." And I said, "That's for gay people." And I tried it on and I looked hot, and every other woman said, "Ooh." And I said, "You know what? Maybe a little color would be a good thing for me." You know? So, I'm, if something works, I don't break it. So, except sometimes.
Your wife though has dark hair, right?
My wife has very dark hair. She's Chinese. Although I've tried to convince her to go platinum blonde and, you know, get all anime, you know. She's a little more conservative than I am, I guess. Uh-oh, somebody keeps giving me violent text messages. There we go. Who the heck is this? Oh. Oh, okay. People are trying to invite me to do seminars for them and giving me anonymous text messages telling me, "I have 8 people who want to do the Lie to Me course. What can we do? Who are you?" 5 minutes. I'm David.
It's like Renee.
Nice to meet you, Renee. Welcome.
Meet you.
Come on in, make yourselves at home. Hey, John. Come on in. Before I start singing, Because I'm Happy.
Do I need to go get one?
You need to go register with the girls so they know you're coming, or you're here. Don't be afraid to sit up front. All the people who sit up front get the best stuff. Come on in. Don't be bashful. My daughter, all sweetness and light.
You asked me to do it.
Now she complains.
You were the one who was complaining.
This is the splash zone. You can tell John has been to one of my workshops before. He's sitting in the front row because he knows I'm always going to pull people up and zap them with something. And he wants more goodness.
Yes.
All right, well, while we're waiting, on your seats you'll find a plethora of unique implements, one of which is a stress survey. The reason for that is the vast majority of the problems we have result in stress of all kinds. Many times we don't even know why we're stressed out. We're just carrying around this huge, invisible iceberg of stress floating below the surface. If you are willing and want to, if you fill out the stress survey and turn it in, each and every one of you who turns it in will get a free 30-minute consultation with me. We'll go over your survey. We'll talk about what your goals and your ideas are, what your values are, what you want to do, and outline some possible options where we can get some of your stuff handled. Normally to walk in my door, it's anywhere between $175 to $350 an hour. It's my gift to you just for coming in and filling out the survey. 30 minutes of my time, absolutely free. Don't think about it now. Decide as you go through the seminar if you want to spend more time with someone like me, right? Come on in. Yes, sir.
About how long is it going to run?
I'm going to try to have you guys out of here by 9:30. I've scheduled the room until 10, but you never really know. A lot of times where we go and how deep into certain subjects we go is really predicated on the audience. So the more interactive you are, and by the way, I thrive on interaction. So if you're going to sit there like a lump, I'm going to sit here like a lump. See, I've got interaction already. Good. And that's going to be important because what we're talking about tonight is attraction. We're talking about romance and ways to rapidly attract people. I'm going to give you a clue. This ain't going to do it. Okay? So many of the things that I'm going to talk about tonight, you might already know. Many of the things you may have heard other people say. That doesn't make them wrong, and it doesn't make them make it old news. It means it might be something you want to actually start putting into practice, because you probably haven't up to this point. I'm also going to be spending a lot of time decoding the mysteries of the other side. We're going to talk about how women perceive the interaction between a man and a woman, and how women perceive the interaction between a man and a woman, and the comparisons will probably shock you. Hey there. There's my number one fan, sneaking the chocolate. All right. Okay. Well, it is technically 7 o'clock. They're going to keep filtering in, I know, but we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll see what happens. Welcome to Renegade Romance, Rapid Attraction Secrets for Dating, Mating, and Relating. My name is David Snyder, and I will be your guide tonight through the wonderful and often confusing world of sex, romance, dating, and relationships. A little bit about my background with this is in 2004, 2005, I was a student in Los Angeles, California. I was studying acupuncture and Oriental medicine. Prior to me going to acupuncture school, I did my undergraduate work in Oklahoma State University, Oklahoma City, where I was torn, conflicted, confused between two career paths. One of which was healthcare. The other was criminal investigation. In other words, I wanted to be a FBI profiler. And why? Because I've always been fascinated by how people think, how they work, how to predict and interpret human behavior. And I found over the years, the decades that have gone by since then, that it was an extraordinarily empowering and enlightening journey. It gave me tremendous, tremendous advantages in a number of situations, one of which was dating and relationships. There is a distinct advantage to understanding how to interpret body language, both for attraction and when people are friggin' lying to you. Okay? It's extremely useful. The interesting thing about both of those particular pursuits is that a lot of the indicators for attraction, a lot of the indicators for deception are based on one thing. The same thing that's on that survey I told you to fill out, stress. You have two kinds of stress that the body works on, or works with, positive stress and negative stress. Either way, when the body goes into stress responses, it looks for ways to deal with it. Depending on what kind of stress it is, you'll go into attraction cues, which are just stress signaling mechanisms, or distress cues, which are avoidance cues, things that people do to dissipate stress or get away from it. So no matter what we're talking about in terms of body language, we're always dealing with some change in the homeostasis of the body, some change in the level of arousal in the nervous system. It's just a question beyond that of what direction is it going. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, they're starting to file in, so that brings us up to 2004, 2005. All the while I was going through my undergraduate education, I spent hours and hours, year after year, studying the dynamics of relationships, attraction, dating. Not for you. Most of the things I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, I learned for me. I never intended to be teaching this to any of you. That being said, just because I'm a guy, ladies, pay very close attention, because a lot of the things that I teach men to do to attract you are what you do to attract men. A lot of the protocols I'm going to be sharing with you work on either gender. In fact, one of the major ones I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, there's two components I'm really going to focus on that I think are the big chunks that everybody needs to get. Everything else is a little bit more peripheral. One is called the 3 Magic Questions protocol, and the other is called the mating dance. The mating dance is a 7-stage process, a body language process, that every human being on the planet, man and woman interacting, go through. It's hardwired into the system. It's not culturally dependent. So if you go to Australia and you see 2 people interacting, you'll see the same 7 stages. If you go to New Guinea and see 2 people interacting in an urban social setting, you'll see the same 7 stages. The interesting thing about the mating dance is that through most of it, the woman's doing the leading. Okay? Which brings us to the very first lesson I have to teach men when it comes to interacting with women. Pay attention. Okay? Over 1/3, actually 60% of all approaches, all male-female approaches, are actually initiated by women. Guys, did you know that? Of course not. Because you weren't paying attention. 80% of all breakups are initiated by women too, in case you didn't know that. You guys probably knew that one though, right? The question is, if 60% of all approaches are initiated by women, how are we missing this? I got some horrible and ugly truths for you guys, and girls actually, but we'll start with the guys since they have thicker skins. Most of us are far uglier than we will admit, and far more attractive than we realize. Huh? What? You see the cognitive dissonance hit when that comes in. What do you mean? You just told me I'm uglier than I thought, but I'm more attractive than I realized. Nobody likes to admit they're ugly, so they always either rate themselves as average or above average. And in my last course on lie detection, I gave you a laundry list of wonderful examples of self-deception. And if anybody wants to hear those, maybe during a break or something, I'll pull them out and you can play with it a little bit. But the bottom line is it really has nothing to, beyond a certain degree or certain level, how attractive you are has nothing to do with your physical appearance. It has everything to do with how other people perceive you. Very important distinction there. How other people perceive you. Now you have a lot of control, both consciously and unconsciously, about how other people perceive you. And we'll talk about those. I'm going to try and cover, if you can think about tonight's lecture, I could go really, really deep into one subject and leave all like 16 other subjects untouched. Or I can touch on each and every one of them and give you guys a little bit of an overview and some ideas that you can start putting into practice. Okay? When I say that most guys are more attractive than they realize, it's because women who initiate 60% of all approaches, all male-female interactions that have as an agenda getting to know somebody, initiated by women. You're not seeing the signals because men and women send out different signals that they think are obvious, but they're not. The signals a woman sends out, that signal attraction, that are trying to drop messages to you, are only perceptible by women. And it's not really, I mean, as guys, we're dumb as rocks, let's be honest, we are, okay? But the truth of the matter is, both sides, and by the way, before we go any further, both genders manipulate each other. Get over it. Okay? As long as we get the 800-pound gorilla out of the room, we're okay. Let me close this. Nobody else gets in. Oh, we're going to have some fun tonight, baby. All right. So, both genders manipulate. Get over it. And someone in the audience, someone goes, I don't manipulate people. Really? Did you cut your hair recently? Because that's an attempt at manipulating perception. Did anybody here put on makeup today? By the way, this means yes. This means yes. This means no. Right? Anybody here bathe? God, I hope so. It's like, shit, he was watching. Right? Anything that we do, let's really just drill down real quick. Anything that we do with the intention of managing how other people perceive us is some form of manipulation. Get over it. You can't survive without it. But we do need to probably make a distinction between manipulation with a malevolent objective and manipulation with a benevolent one, right? Everything we're going to talk about here is powerful, which means it can be used properly and well, or it can be misused. I'm not a persuasion cop. I'm certainly not politically correct. And if political correctness or lack of it thereof offends you, there's the door. Okay? I do like to tell it pretty straight, tell it like it is. And I like to have fun, which is the first thing we need to understand if we want to start upping our level of attractiveness to other people. If we want to start generating more attraction, we need to have more fun. And we need to radiate that out to everyone we interact with, that we're people who like to have fun. How many people here do anything with online dating? Raise your hand. Okay. How many people here do anything with online dating? Not so much? Okay. You don't have what?
I don't at all.
Don't at all? Okay. How many people here are actually married? Raise your hand. Okay, good. Single? Otherwise engaged? Divorced. Divorced? Okay. We need to know this. By the way, a lot of the things, for those of you who are married, and there aren't that many, so that's okay too. A lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about will actually put more juice and spice back into your marriage once you understand how the other side thinks. There's this thing in psychology we call projection. Anybody here ever hear that term, projection? If you haven't, projection basically means we're all moving through the world with this map of how the world's supposed to be, based on our ideal design of how it's supposed to work. And what happens is we look at that mirror, or we look at that image, or that map, and we make decisions about the value of it. And that's what happens inside. But what we do with it then is we actually take that map and project it onto everyone around us and act as if they work the same way we do. And then we make them wrong when they don't match. Anybody here ever do something different than you expected and you got upset? That's how it works, right? May or may not have been something even remotely stupid or whatever. It just wasn't what you expected or how you thought things should be. We all have these maps. We all engage in projection, okay? And especially amongst the genders, because your biology is slightly different, your psychology is slightly different, and your sociology is slightly different, everything both genders do is logical. It makes sense, but only from their perspective, okay? When a woman is sending out signals because of her socialization, because of her unique biology, she's developed certain strategies that she has to employ to move her genes forward. Because she has to work more socially, more interactively with women, her strength comes in numbers. She tends to develop a very, very powerful sense of body language detection or understanding, a higher degree of empathy, and a greater degree of danger detection. She spends a lot more time scanning for potential threats. And so when women interact, they're interacting on very, very subtle levels. And when they move through the world, that's how they do it. Guys, we're a little bit more blatant. We come out of the womb and the first thing we do is start competing for dominance. Okay? You get a room full of guys, and within 20 minutes, the pecking order has been established and everyone falls in line. Right? It's the social hierarchy. And until then, you can literally see the equivalent of a social dick contest. Everybody's competing for that top slot. Right? In the pickup and seduction world, which is where we're coming back to, I haven't given you the full history yet, we call that frame control. Frame control, or frames, are the overall meaning of any given interaction and the part you play in that frame. For example, typical dating scenario, man and a woman are in a bar, right? Man sees exciting looking woman. Woman, that's a Popeyeism, right? You guys don't know what Popeye is? Okay, I was thrown through this, anyway. So he approaches. She's standing there at the bar. And he's going, okay, here we go. Last time I did this, got kicked in the nards twice. This is what he thinks he's doing this. In his head. But that's only in his head. In his head he's going. In reality, here I go. And of course, she's sitting at the chair. And you hear that little oh yeah music. Oh yeah. Come on, guys, help me out here. No Ferris Bueller fans? And you see her go, that slow-mo movement. And she's thinking to herself, wonder which way this one's gonna go, right? Is he gonna man up or clam up, right? And I lost my train of thought. But anyway, who's the prize in that interaction? The girl, right? Yeah. But what if, as weird as this may sound, what if the woman were the one doing the approaching? Would she still be the prize? The arrogant ones say yes. Right? Same scenario, right? But the players have changed. Here's the weird thing. In any frame between two people, the roles are predetermined by biology. Just like, remember when I said that when a bunch of guys get together, there's this 20-minute dick contest that goes on? Sorry, I shouldn't say dick in front of a large group of people, because that would be politically incorrect. Anyway. And then the social hierarchy emerges. Yes? No? Okay. That's a frame, just like this. The behaviors are unconscious. The moment the positions in the frame are established, the behaviors activate automatically. If you control the frame, you control the game. So the secret here, for ladies and men, because you are here tonight, because you are learning the secrets of the other side, you now are the prize in any relationship, in any interaction. Because you know this, because you understand this, your goal is to hold the prize position. And I'm going to teach you very powerful ways to make sure you keep that prize position. I may, if I'm really feeling benevolent, I may even let you practice on each other just to show you. And everybody's going, yeah, no, please don't make me talk to a woman, no. Don't make me talk to a strange guy at a meetup. I didn't come here to be social. I've actually had people yell at me for trying to foment interaction in a meetup. Says, I would love to come to your meetup, but every time I come to a meetup, you make people stand up and talk about themselves, and I hate that. Maybe you shouldn't come to an attraction meetup. I kid you not, right? The first thing we have to do is we have to stop taking ourselves too seriously, which is usually why we screw ourselves up in the first place. We create these pictures in our head based on what's happened to us in the past. We blow them way out of proportion, and then we act as if they're true. And we act as if the other person that we're seeking to interact with sees it too. In 2001, 2002, I moved to Los Angeles to study acupuncture because I looked at what criminal investigators make and the amount of stress level and the life expectancy, as well as the drug abuse totals, and I said, no, I'm not going there. So I went to study acupuncture, but I'd been studying attraction, dating, seduction. I hate that word, by the way. I use it because it's important, but I hate the word. Just not a nice word. I like attraction, I like romance, I like adventure. They're all good words for the same thing. And they create different associations, and we're going to talk about emotional associations. If you're not playing with emotions, and you're playing in the wrong, you're swimming in the wrong pool. Okay? Any of you guys have ever tried to logic a woman into going out with you? You're like, well, I've got this card, I've got this job, and I've got this cool stuff. And she's like, yeah? Right. And then she leaves you for the janitor, right? How's that work? Emotional engagement. Ladies, I'm going to say some things that are going to fly directly in the face of what you've been taught to attract people. Okay? Anybody here ever read a book called The Rules? Okay, if you haven't, go home and burn it. Because it's the rules for staying single. The model upon which that is based is gone. It doesn't work anymore. And we'll discuss why. In 2000, let me just finish my history so you understand how this is relevant. While I was in medical school, I was studying acupuncture and Oriental medicine. I got to immerse myself very, very deeply in both the hypnosis community. I ran an organization called Sleepwalkers International. It was the world's largest NLP and hypnosis practice organization in the world. We had chapters in like 7 countries and 13 states. Okay? And I was the head of that whole organization. And we had the largest free practice groups and sessions, bar none. People were always, in the entire hypnosis world, were looking to see what we were doing in LA. The other thing about that, though, this was before a book called The Game came out. Anybody remember that book? You know about that book? If you don't, it's a good read, even if you don't buy into that stuff. Right? There's a lot you can learn from it. Happen to know Neil. He's a good guy, believe it or not. But I happened to be on a first-name basis with a lot of the guys in that book. And I happened to interact with a lot of the people who would later go on to become dating coaches and things like that. 2004, 2005, I created my first e-course. It was a home study course on how to give women the most outstanding sexual experience of their life. It was literally how to find out and discover on an individual, woman-by-woman basis, exactly what constitutes her ideal lover on the first night you were with her, and match it to the point where before you even slept with her, well, you already outclassed every guy she'd ever been with. And then you take her beyond it. It was based on something we call the checklist, which goes back to this concept of projection. Every interaction that you have, male or female, is based on what we call criteria and values. It's based on a set of building blocks that you use to decide for yourself what's right, what's proper, what's appropriate. It's your checklist. If somebody matches your checklist, it's like a video game. You get to go to the next level. You have this great rush of pleasure. You feel validated. How many women would like a relationship in which they feel validated? Let me ask you ladies a question, because it's important. Guys, pay attention. First rule, pay attention. Because we don't. We're dumb as rocks, trust me. I'm on your side, ladies, believe me. If you met a guy who could touch you in the way you've always wanted a man to touch you, at exactly the right time, in exactly the right place, could say the exact words you've always wanted to hear come from the lips of a man, that allowed you to feel completely understood, validated, connected, what would you do for that man? Because that's what I came out with in 2004, 2005. Guys thought it was all about sex, because that's what we focus on. But it's not. It's about something much, much deeper. It's about the building blocks of your identity. Everything that you hold to be sacred in your world. We do it on a social level. We do it on a relationship level. We do it on a sexual or a physical level. We have these maps. And the more quickly and the more accurately we can discover somebody's map of what's right in their world, the more we know about them, and the more we can give them everything that's important to them. That's what you're here to learn tonight. Okay? It's not quick tricks for, putting another notch on your bedpost, although you could. And it works for either gender. The only thing that changes a little bit is the order and sequence in which you do certain things. Does that make sense? But we're all the good guys here and gals, right? You're not going to go out and do vile things to people with this, right? And then it got very quiet. And David got very nervous. Maybe I should just end it here. What do you think? No, like, no, you're not getting out, motherfucker. You're not going to say that and then all of a sudden take it away. The magic question, though, if we're going to do this on a conversational level. By the way, you like the heart? See that lady back there holding the saxophone position next to Candy? That's my daughter, Tracy. She's a magnificently gifted artist. Give her a big round of applause. And I just want to validate her and this wonderful, beautiful heart that she created before I do the manly thing and erase it. Because I'm a man and we can get away with that shit. Okay?
Did you also do the soft part outside?
No, she did not. She would have done it better. Not that I'm a proud dad or anything. And I am. I've been happily married now since 2009, I think, 2010. But a lot of the things that have allowed me to do that were because of the things I'm teaching you tonight. Okay? My wife is a consummate overachiever. Okay? She had a PhD in biochemistry before she started chiropractic school. She started chiropractic school and acupuncture school at the same time. She was a valedictorian of both at the same time. My wife is not a stupid woman. How she wound up with me, I don't know. But one of the things that when you're dealing with women, especially a lot of the modern women, which I see by the average age range or youth range in this room, there's a lot of very self-actualized women in here. Women who have careers, who have their own businesses, who have had to, in many ways, take on attitudes and behaviors that a couple of generations ago would have been completely outside the norm. Today, women are better educated. They make more money. God knows why they need us. Okay? But that does create another set of problems. It really does. I'm gonna leave that loop open for now because we'll come back to it because it's very important that if you want your woman to be more of a woman, guys, you need to be more of a man. Because it's ironic. Look at them all nodding. It's like, he gets it! Right? Men today produce 25% less testosterone than their grandfather's generation did. The gender roles have been so blurred and confused that guys don't know how to be guys anymore. They don't know how to be primal enough to keep these self-actualized women happy. They become metrosexual. They become very sensitive, which is not a bad thing. But when sensitivity becomes weakness, your woman loses interest. And there's nothing more dangerous or deadly than a bored, disrespectful woman. Look at the women, they're going. And it sounds like I'm preaching to the guys, and I am. You know why, ladies? We need it. But I'm gonna, bounce off you a little bit too. So you have a different set of problems in the dating and relating world, mostly because you've been fed a line of hooey, which at the time it was created served a purpose, but times have changed. Okay? How many people, when they were growing up, especially you older ladies, were told never make eye contact with a guy you're attracted with because that's not what good girls do. Anybody ever taught that? Maybe I'm reading a different book, I don't know. But there is an ongoing thing that don't make eye contact with guys you're attracted to because they might come over and talk to you. The problem that women have with a lot of the behaviors that they're taught They're taught with the intention of creating a certain effect, when in fact, many times they create the opposite effect. I made a little joke earlier of a guy trying to approach a woman and that little whole fear factor. That's the biggest problem guys have, is that fear of rejection. Women have a slightly different problem. They're not afraid of being approached. They're afraid, and ladies, if I'm full of shit, tell me, they're afraid of getting themselves into an interaction they can't get themselves out of. Yes? Why? Because that gap was left out of their training. You ever notice that when a woman by the way, remember the projection thing? When a woman is signaling the interaction is over to another woman, that woman gets it instantly. But the guy will just keep droning on, because he's been breast-nitized. Come back. You know these guys. They come up and they have a deep, reflectful, soulful conversation with your chest. Right? But the truth of the matter is that when it comes to attraction cues, when it comes to social interaction cues, we don't perceive the same way. Or we do, but we're sorting for different behaviors. And a lot of this goes back to the playground. You ever wonder how a guy becomes naturally good at women and how most of us don't? Because I was one of the other ones. Usually goes back to when you're on the playground, usually around kindergarten or so, and you see this girl who looks interesting. You really don't know what anything beyond like at that point, except that you see this girl or you see this guy, and you just kind of like her. You just want to get to hang out with her, and you're not really sure why, but you approach. Now, little girls have this problem. They like little boys too. The only problem is they're worried about what their friends are going to say. True, not true? If my friends find out I like a boy, it's all over. But she wants your attention, guys. You ever hear that expression, when a child can't get your attention one way, she'll get it another? So what happens? Little boy walks over to the little girl. He's dumb as a rock. He doesn't know anything. He's very linear. He thinks, see food, eat food. See girl you like, girl, go talk to girl. Not a problem, right? Well, that's boy world. That's not girl world. So, boy sees girl. Maybe boy, in this scenario, boy approaches girl. And they say hi. And she's with her friends, and she's like excited he came over to talk to her. And then realizes her friends are looking at her. Boys are icky! Right? That's a pretty linear example. Now all of a sudden, every time he goes to talk to another girl, the first thing his unconscious mind is going to do is say, okay, have we ever experienced a situation like this before? The unconscious mind goes, let me check. Yes! What did we do? We did this. What did she do? She did that. Oh. I'll do it again. Because that's what your unconscious mind does. It doesn't sort for good or bad, especially when you're young. It sorts for what was there first. And it brings up the memory, it brings up the feelings, and you experience it again, either consciously or unconsciously. Anybody here ever have familiar feelings in something, a new, completely new situation? Welcome to the power of the unconscious mind. That's what I do as a hypnotist. Now, there's another scenario. Girl likes boy. They're on the playground. He's over there playing with his friends, but she wants his attention. So she looks at her friends, looks at the boy, looks at the friends, looks at the boy, walks across the playground, taps him on the shoulder, and goes, boys are icky! And then maybe kicks him in the shin and walks away. What does boy say? She really hates me. He completely misses the fact that she walked across a crowded parking lot or crowded playground to tap him on the shoulder, say boys are icky to him by looking him in the eye, and then walk back to her friends who were watching. Guys, does this scenario even come close to ringing a bell? Maybe. I'm not going to, I'm sorry, you got me, shit. Right? The problem is that we need to protect ourselves from how other people see us. You see, there's 3 areas in our life that cause resistance, or 3 categories of things where resistance comes from, or fear comes from. It comes from anything that threatens how we see ourselves. Anything that threatens how we think other people will see us. Or 3, what we know to be true. Any lady who's ever been taught good girls don't have sex on the first date knows what I'm talking about. Right? No one here's ever done that, right? I see the looks. You can't hide from me. It's okay. The problem is, again, both sides want the same thing. They really do. They just go about them from very different maps of the world. Guys were very linear, okay? Even though I parodied that whole walking across the parking lot thing, it was a bit of a parody. It's actually more true than not true. The vast majority of approaches that you guys miss are where the woman just happens to wander into your area and waits, and waits, and waits, which seems to her like hours, really not very long at all. And then she leaves. She comes up to you, asks you what time it is. And you look at your watch and you give her the time. You miss the fact that she walked all the way across a crowded room full of people with watches to ask you the time. You guys understand that when a woman does not like you, she systematically removes you either metaphorically or literally from her environment? She does not give attention of any kind to people she doesn't like or find interesting. Okay?
And vice versa. The guy does the same thing.
To a certain degree, but it's a little bit different. Women are much more subtle about it. You know, if you walk up to a guy and he doesn't like you, he'll give you whatever you need just to get rid of you. You know, women will just go. True or not true? You know that's a seduction tactic? Learned from women? It's called the freeze out. Okay? And basically, it attacks the reptilian brain. It activates the reptilian need to be included by taking it away. Okay? And we could go into all the different mechanics of it, but it's kind of a dirty tactic, but it's useful, you know. But we learned it from women. Okay? Women systematically remove, and this is a principle. I want you to tattoo it on your forehead. Okay? Women do not interact unless by force with people they don't like. If they can't leave the room, they will metaphorically remove you from the environment. Okay? Now, guys, when you're out in the world and you're doing something, and a woman out of the blue gives you a smart-ass remark, that you wore that shirt today, right? With a grin or a smirk on her face, the little boy on the playground thinks, oh shit, boys are icky. She doesn't like me. Right? The guy who chose a different response, the little boy who, when the girl said boys are icky, he looked at her and said, girls are ickier. And now they're sparring. Right? In that moment, the frame was at a point where it was very easy to change. At that moment, depending on how the boy decided to interpret that behavioral cue, determined the course of his entire dating life. Would he be someone who is intimidated by approaching? Or would he become someone who, when that little shot across the bow got fired, realized, oh, the game is on. She wants to play. And the sparring match continues. Most of us chose the very linear approach. The other ones went on to become seduction artists and guys who are just damn good at women or athletes, right? But it starts when it's the same behavior. It's the same pattern, but it starts at a very young age. Now, the cool thing is once you understand that behavior, the only thing that changes is the sophistication of it. It's the same basic process. When a woman is interacting with you, and she appears to be, short of blowing smoke in your face and kicking you in the nuts, metaphor, she's inviting interaction. She's giving you a chance to demonstrate that you get it, that you're not a blowdown. You're not going to curl up and run away like all the other beta males she's used to interacting with. You understand that even a woman of average attraction gets hit on a ridiculous number of times every day? Now, with that sheer number of approaches, she's got to create a system that allows her to sort the potentials from the not so potential. And she'll test you. She'll throw little signals out there to see what you'll do. And she'll sort you depending on that. It has very little to do after the initial interaction about how you look. It has more about how you make her feel. How you demonstrate how you move through the world. Are you someone who's just going to, take the boys are icky and accept that and move on? Or are you going to say, ho, you drew down the gauntlet, let's play. Right? Now, corollary to that is, since guys are dumb as rocks, there is a time in every interaction where you're either going to get somewhere with this lady or you're not. She's going to try, from her perspective, to signal that, you know what, I'm not feeling it. Maybe we should just not go here or go in that direction. But we don't do that. We keep talking and talking and talking until finally she's given like 6 or 7 signals or 6 or 7 attempts to remove herself from the interaction. We still haven't gotten it, and all of a sudden the bitch shield goes up because it's the only thing we get. It's the only thing that cuts through that testosterone-induced trance that we're in. Does that make sense? Okay? So ladies, what you need to do, 2 things. You need to develop a system or a set of techniques. See, I'm going to take care of the ladies first because they've put up with my meandering since you guys came in. You need to be able to extract yourself from an interaction going south. That's the first key. That's the first social skill we need to a gap we need to fill in. Sorry?
You mean the frying pan is not?
Frying pan is usually a little, it's usually just blunt enough for some of us to get it. Really depends on how long it's been, if you know what I'm saying, right? Or how many drinks we've had or whatever. The other part is, and this is important for you ladies, how many ladies here consistently meet the wrong type of frickin' guy and are tired of it? Okay, blame the rules. The rules you were taught growing up are designed, from the female perspective, to weed out the guys who are not confident, not secure, not manly enough, strong enough to be a good protector and a provider. That's what they're intended to do. But at the same time, you want a guy who will respect your boundaries, right? Who will not, when you signal that the interaction's over, they'll get it, right? Who gets you? Guess what? The behaviors you were taught to screen for that will absolutely ensure that they will not approach you. Because most of the signals, how many people were taught to play hard to get? You were taught to play hard to get? Okay, right on. Were you taught to play hard to get?
I wasn't taught at all.
You weren't taught at all, okay. You're in the right place.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Sometimes it's just that you meet a person and it might be the nicest person on earth,
Mm-hmm.
but you just don't feel
There's no chemistry, there's no connection.
No chemistry.
I got it.
That's it.
We're going to get to that.
That's
But we
all.
got to get to the point where the guy, here's the problem, is ladies, you're being approached a lot. True, not true. But the guys that you're being approached to, they just don't do it for you. Or they do it to a certain point and then everything goes south in a predictable pattern. Right? It's because the behaviors that that most of us are taught are designed to give the impression of being hard to get. What they actually do is set up barriers that only people who are ultra confident, which is a very tiny percentage, or who just don't care about your boundaries, will approach you. The ones who will see your body language and not come close to you. Because in their world, you're signaling you don't want to be approached. The intention of the behaviors you were taught is wonderful. The result, not so much. So the key, A, be more approachable. But in order to be willing to be more approachable, we have to develop a way to get ourselves out of the stuff. When stuff starts to go south, when the shit starts to hit the fan, they're just not getting the message. How do we extract ourselves from the situation and make everybody okay without trashing this guy's self-esteem? Which is what happens. Most of us don't get the message. The woman has to resort to the bitch scream, the bitch shield, in order for you to take the hint to go away. She doesn't want to do it, most of the time, in my experience. But she doesn't, you're not getting all the subtle signals that would be obvious to another woman, because you're not a woman. So for us guys, we have to get smarter. We have to become more aware. Ladies, we have to fill in the gap between being accepting and nurturing and kind and considerate and super bitch, right? We need to start creating a decision tree, kind of, where, okay, this isn't going well, subtle hint number one that he'll get. Still preserves his self-esteem, but moves the interaction a little bit more, gives it a little more insulation, gives it a little bit more distance. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the thing that you want to start to really focus on. You know, we could go into different kinds of examples. And, you know, some of the things that you might say when you sense that the interaction is going to go in a way, isn't going where you want it to go, you can do very simple things like, you know what, I really, really am enjoying this conversation. Maybe he's asked for the phone number. You say, you know what, why don't you give me your email and we'll continue this, online. Or you could say, excuse me, I got to get my drink. And get out of the interaction. Subtle things that preserve the approacher's self-esteem, but gets you out of the interaction, gives you distance, right? Sometimes they still won't get it, and then you need to escalate. I mean, I'm aware of that. But if we can fill in the gap a little bit, start to give ourselves a little bit more of a staging area or a little bit more of a progression, we're more open to allowing ourselves to become more approachable. Which means, as a rule, we'll have a much larger selection of men talking to us. And we're not screening for the ultra alphas or the ultra sociopaths. Because 4% of the population falls under that definition. That's beyond epidemic level, by the way, for those of you who work with the CDC. Okay? There's a lot more guys out there who just don't care. No one in this room, of course. But that's where we want to go for you ladies, is we want to give you a set of protocols to follow where you can get yourself out of the shit. Pardon my French, that's Secret Hidden Influence Technologies, by the way. It's an acronym. And we want to start developing behaviors and body language that signals the right kind of guy to approach you. So, on one level, we build our defenses so we can lower others, so we get a bigger selection. Does that make sense? Guys, we need to get over this fear of approaching. Okay? We need to get over this whole, well, how do I do it? I'm going to give you the #1 most successful pickup line in history. Works 99.99% of the time when used by women. Works about 96% of the time all over the world when used by men. Goes something like this. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
That's it.
How are you?
See? Right? That's really, you don't need to be clever many times. You just need to be direct. And just say, hey, just wanted to meet you. My name is. Good eye contact though, right? Now, ladies, you can encourage this by becoming more obvious that you want somebody to come and talk to you. Show of hands, guys. If you looked at a woman and you knew within a 60 to 90% probability that that woman wanted you to come and talk to her, or was at least open to the possibility, how much fear would you have in approaching? How many people would have a lot of fear? You would. I'll fix your ass in a minute. How many people would have less than 25% fear? Most of the guys in this room, which are nice guys, by the way. Guys who would respect your boundaries, but won't approach you because you're not telling them you want them to, in a way that they get it. And this is the secret of tonight. Tonight is about learning how the other side thinks, learning how the other side perceives your behaviors, what their behaviors mean to you, and what they're supposed to mean to them. Once you understand it, now you can manage it. But if you keep trying to interpret what a woman does by your model of the world, or you keep trying to interpret what a man does by your model of the world, you're going to continue having this frustration. Does that make sense? This means yes, this means no. Yes?
Quick question on the phone number part. I learned or heard that when a guy sometimes asks you for your number, it's actually his way to disconnect from you.
It could be. Could be.
So it actually might give you a false hope that that person is into you.
Absolutely. This is not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination. And a lot of the same behaviors both genders use. So yeah, it's very, very possible that he's asking for your phone number to get rid of you. But, by a show of hands, guys, how many of you have ever asked for a woman's phone number to get rid of her?
Just say why.
There you go. When in doubt, just test it. Okay? You just test, you just ask. Sometimes being direct has a lot of power.
Why would they ask you for your phone number to get rid of you instead of just walking away?
Bravado.
Because
It's in the movie Swingers.
It's in the, okay, I didn't see the movie. Right.
You know,
Yeah. The whole thing is in the pickup and seduction world, which I have a lot of respect for them actually, even though they get a lot of bad press. But my specialty in the clinic is physiological illness, tumors, chronic illness that has as its cause repressed emotion. Some of the most powerful techniques that I use to heal people, to help them fix their own physical illness, were honed in the seduction community. It's the harshest environment there is. And if it works in a place where people have no vested interest in doing what you want, they're not there with the agenda of going home with you or doing what you want in any way, shape, or form, and the principle works. When you take the same principle and apply it in a more open environment, in a different direction, you gain tremendous, tremendous power. Yes?
I missed the connection of what principle you're talking about.
Well, there's a lot of them.
Okay.
One of the ones that really is useful, how many people here have seen at least one of my videos on the internet? Okay, have you seen any of the videos where I spin something and it goes away? The essence of that technique, or one of the principles in that technique, is based around the concept of symbols and how they interact with the unconscious mind. You may have a defense mechanism unconsciously against my words, against me going directly after the specific problem. There may be a whole shell around it that doesn't want to be touched. But your unconscious mind doesn't think about creating a defense against a symbol for it. So by connecting the problem to a symbol and manipulating the symbol, I can indirectly manipulate the problem. I can do the same. There's a video, if you want to go and look. There's a video out there on YouTube where I'm using the exact same technique that you've seen me use to get rid of pains, fears. I even cure broken hearts with it. There's a video on YouTube of me doing that, actually. I've done 3 of them now. But there's also one where I'm actually using it to give a woman multiple orgasms without touching her. She was a very happy woman, by the way. Right? Same principle, same subconscious mind, same neurology. Power is neutral, ladies and gentlemen. It's the direction in which you apply it That defines it. Okay? So you can look at a lot of the things I'm teaching you tonight from that's very manipulative and evil, and things should just happen spontaneously and be natural, and if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If that's true, why did you bathe today? Why did you style your hair? Why did you color it? I color my hair. I know a lot of you ladies color your hair. Why did you bother to get a haircut at all? You didn't come into this world with shaved head, with a cool comb over, or whatever, however you style it, right? You didn't. Get real, okay? We do these things because we want to manage perception so that we can have more control over every aspect of our lives. It's just some of us are honest about it and some of us aren't. We hide behind words like empowerment, or we hide behind words like, I'm just a healer, I'm just going to heal everybody and do healing things. Bullshit. Yes, you're healing, but you're doing it out of a sense that you want control over something. You want to take the randomness out of your life. I know most of you want to take the randomness out of your dating lives, don't you? This means yes, this means no. Okay? So let's just get over ourselves and understand that these principles are out there. And if you study this material for no other reason than to learn to recognize it, so that you can protect yourself against it, if that's the place you're coming from, then it's an evening well spent, right? But what if we could take all this stuff, systematize it, and use it in a way that creates deep, real, powerful connection and chemistry with another human being that we select? What if we didn't have to rely on just destiny? Which is a big fantasy for most women, by the way. You ever want to get a woman's attention, find a commonality in the environment, and say, man, I can't believe you have the same thing in common with me. It's like we were destined to meet. And they'll go, oh, yeah. Just one of the memes that are floating around. Okay? It's one of the things you're programmed with. Stories, movies. Hollywood is responsible for more divorces than any other medium on the planet. But how the hell is that possible? Think about the average romantic comedy, the average romance. What happens at the end of every one of them? Happy ending. The story ends, right? The story ends. What's the meta message? You meet, you court, you have a great adventure, you consummate the relationship, and then the story ends. And if there's a sequel, 9 times out of 10, there's a different lead. Think about it for a minute. How many women has Indiana Jones actually been with? Right? At the end, he winds up with the first one, which is, again, another meme, another fantasy. Right? There are layer upon layer upon layer of social programs being installed into you all the time. But the story ends, and you have to keep going. And that's where things start to go south, right? Because when you reach certain stages in your relationship, your roles change. Your identity changes. How many people here have been married at least once? Okay. I was a loaded question. I knew that going in. You ever notice that after about a year, all the things that the other person was doing to make you want to marry him in the first place, they kind of stopped doing? Why?
They already have you.
They already have you. Okay?
The story ended.
Sorry?
The story ended.
The story ended?
That doesn't happen to everybody.
No, but it happens to most of us. And that's what we're talking about. We're not looking at the exceptions to the rule. If you were the exceptions to the rule, this room would be empty. True or not true?
True.
All right. Let's be real. Okay? I'm here to help. I really am. I made 60 new friends tonight, and I'm hoping that I can give you guys some really powerful stuff. Some of it's going to fly in the face of what you're used to. Okay? That's part of the process. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you're going to keep getting the same results. That's a choice, right? The reason that a lot of these relationships fail is because society has programmed certain key identity roles into each and every gender that are designed to take place at certain key points in your life. Relationship, marriage, the wedding, and all of a sudden within a year, you're not the person that you were who got her to want to marry you in the first place, or got him to want to marry you. Like he says, he got her, right? But it's more than that. It's more complex than that. Because now, as soon as you become the wife, then all of a sudden it's the ticker starts running till mother starts to activate. And if you have a career, that's not going away. You're not going to give that up. Okay? So you've got wife, mother, career woman. If you're active in any kind of charities or any kind of other activities, those are more and more things that are calling your time. Same thing happens to guys. He starts to get more. He's got a family now. He's got to spend more time at the office. He's got to do more of this, more of that. He starts to work harder to make more money. One of two things can begin to happen there too. Anybody here heard of the First Wives Club? How many people here remember the First Wives Club? I was. No. Right? What happens there? Boy meets girl in college. He's a struggling architect or cardiac surgeon or whatever. She's an econ major or a
pilot.
Or what?
Or pilot.
Or a pilot. Ooh, pilots, that's dangerous. They have a lot of status. Right, Bruce? Anyway, but what happens? All of a sudden he goes on to she starts sacrificing more and more and more. This is the old model. It doesn't happen that much anymore. But the old model is she starts sacrificing more and more and more to help him get ahead. True or not true? That's how the story goes, right? Then all of a sudden, 10 years later, he's head of this Fortune 500 company, or on his way to becoming the top CEO. He achieves another 3 or 4 decimal places on his salary. And she serves you with divorce papers and leaves you for the hot secretary he hired 6 months ago. Why? His self-image changed. It's not midlife crisis, although that can happen. It's identity. His self-image changed, and he started seeing himself differently. You cannot, repeat, cannot out-earn your self-image. You cannot hold on to things that are not in conformance with how you see and value yourself. If you are constantly attracting the same kind of person over and over and over again, it's because there's a template and a set of behaviors that you're doing that are bringing that kind of person into your life. And it's all outside of conscious awareness. That's why you keep coming up with reasons why it didn't work this time. But it's the same story over and over again. Does that make sense? I didn't want to get all negative, but we started lapsing into socially programmed roles. It just kind of went that way. Society does this to us. So how do we fix it? First, become aware of it. Because until someone like me who tells you like it is, or maybe you've heard some of this before, that's okay, brings it to your attention enough times that you decide you want to do something about it, you'll keep getting the same results. So we have to start addressing self-image, but let's look at something a little bit more practical and a little bit more short-term. Ladies, we want to be signal approachability. We want to give ourselves more of a buffer that allows us to send signals to the other side that they'll interpret, that they'll get that the interaction's over and you can move on. That way you can feel more comfortable sending out the signals I'm about to give you or tell you about that allow people to realize you actually want them to come and talk to you. Would that be okay? The set of characteristics and behaviors I'm going to give you are from a book called How to Make Anyone Love You by Leo Lowndes, and some of them are kind of funny. They start from the highest percentage that you can do them with the least amount of risqueness and get progressively more body and daring. You can pick and choose which ones you want to play with. Number 1, 511 people. If you look at somebody, make positive eye contact, and smile broadly, that's usually enough encouragement for them to want to come talk to you. But don't make it a brief smile. Hold their gaze and smile. Right? Second one. By the way, when we talk about positive eye contact, do you know what I mean? It's not this. Hi, how you doing? Right? What is positive eye contact?
Straight in the eye.
I'm sorry?
Straight in the eye.
Straight in the eye? Like this?
No.
Okay. What's positive eye contact?
That goes across the room.
Across the room. Not looking good for you guys. What's positive eye contact?
Sustains without threatening.
Sustains without threatening. Ugh. What's positive eye contact? Not a clue. Okay. Couple of things. When we're talking about positive eye contact, there's a certain physiological response or physiological set of muscular contractions your face makes when you legitimately like what you're looking at. See these little crow's feet around this corners of my eye? When I'm genuinely happy to see you, see how they crinkle up? When I'm just smiling? Kind of that creepy smile now. Right? From the nose down, there's a smile. From the face up, it's serial killer. Right? This is where you have to become a little bit more discerning in your eye contact. If I'm looking, I'm talking, it's Michelle or Anna?
Amanda.
Amanda. I was halfway right. Okay. If I'm talking to Amanda and I'm smiling and I'm looking at her and I have positive eye contact, but from the nose up, there's nothing going on, she's tolerating my presence. May have nothing to do with me. She may just be in a weird mood that day and just didn't want to be interacted with. So the first thing we have to do, whether we're male looking for men looking for women, women looking for men, we have to know what real positive eye contact is. When I look at somebody and I smile and these little muscles crinkle, that's a legitimate happy to see you smile. Okay? If from the nose up, nothing's going on, or they've got like they've had an overdose of Botox. Ladies, you might want to think about that, right? If all you are is a talking face or talking mouth and nothing else is moving, not necessarily a good idea. But that's the first thing we have to do. When we walk into a venue, any venue, the first thing we want to do is we want to look for positive eye contact. We want to look for people who are genuinely but unconsciously happy to see us. That make sense? Okay. Sounds weird. You really want to get good training on this, watch celebrities. When they're walking the red carpet, you can tell who's pissed off and who's not, because they're going, right? It sounds weird, but once you know what to look for and you practice it, it'll jump out at you. This is one of the signals, by the way, that most guys miss. If you walk into a bar or a club, and I don't go to bars or clubs, but I know a lot of my students do. The first thing you want to do is go through the room and make eye contact with as many different people as possible and smile. See who gives you that legitimate positive, look, there she goes, right? You can't not do it, especially if my state is right. If my emotional state is right, it'll ripple through your neurology and you'll go into the same state. How many people here can feel good for no friggin' reason? Just on demand, just feel good. I don't believe you. Stand up, motherfuckers. Stand up! I just don't believe you. I need to see that you can feel. What part of stand up did you not get?
Everybody, not just the ones that said yes.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. Maybe you can't feel good on demand yet, but would you like to?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the first thing you understand. The energy of the emotional state you're in when you move through the world is the first thing somebody will pick up unconsciously. If you're stressed, if you're pissed off, if you're insecure or nervous, the person that you're seeking to interact with, even though they haven't met you yet, will sense it and start going into that state before you even approach. So we want to start taking control of the system right away. We want to start moving through the world in an energy of happiness, if not even happy, but at least playful. Of at least not being in a shitty mood, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do something that's pretty much foolproof. Science has finally gotten around to proving what I've been teaching now for over 10 years, is that your body controls your emotions. Bar none. If you don't believe me, you want to hear it from a woman, there's a woman by the name of Amanda Cuddy. She did a great talk called Postures of Power or Positions of Power. It's on TED. Just go watch it. It's on my blog. It's floating around there. And she's demonstrated scientifically that if you hold any posture for as little as 2 minutes, your emotional state changes. When people win, when they go into a victorious, when they have a victory, how do they stand? Yay! Do you know if you stand like this for a minimum of 2 minutes, your testosterone goes up 25%. Yeah! You're getting it. They're a little slow, but they're getting it. All right? But here's my point. When testosterone goes up, ballsy behavior goes up too. Right? You can't change the physiology without changing the emotions, without changing the brain, the rationales you use to perceive the world. It's a feedback loop. You can't not do it. If we know that, why not use it? So here's what we're going to do. Little game. I teach this to all my persuasion and influence students. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do what we call the Master and Commander technique. Anybody here not seen the movie Master and Commander with Russell Crowe? Okay, if you haven't, losers. Anyway. But let's see, what's another one that you guys might... well, think of a movie where somebody represented just being that relaxed, dominant authority person, you know. And just remember, close your eyes. That means close your eyes, by the way. Here's the secret. Everybody does what the frick I tell you, or you get time out. Now, I want you to remember what it felt like to watch that movie. To see Russell Crowe coming out onto the deck of his ship in that posture of being in absolute control of his world without having to do any of it. Just overseeing his world, seeing everything moving the way it's supposed to, knowing in the back of his mind that if anything needs tweaking, all he has to do or she has to do is say the word and it gets handled. And I just want you to imagine that you could step into that posture of being completely in charge, being in that state of relaxed control, being dominant, and let those feelings come flooding back. And just be there. Breathe that. Stand the way you would stand. Breathe the way you would breathe. Let the feelings come flooding back. And now, when you know you've got it, here's what I want you to do. Without changing anything that you're doing physically, you keep your breathing the same, your posture the same, everything. Try to feel scared. Notice you can't do it. Notice what your body tries to do when you try to feel scared. Notice how it tries to change. Now go back into that feeling of being strong and powerful and confident. Have you ever went up to somebody you didn't know and they were so happy to talk to you, so excited to see you that you felt this rush of warmth go all through your body? And you had this incredible connection and this feeling of just having known this person, even though you just met them for some mysterious reason, there was a connection, a click. And you talked and you interacted and it was just effortless. And it was fun. And you both got so much out of that interaction. Let that feeling come flooding back up. Stand the way you were standing. Breathe the way you were breathing. If there's any sound connected to that experience, turn the volume all the way up. As you look at the picture, if there's a picture, notice if it's moving or still. If it's still, make it into a movie. Trace the edges of the picture with your fingers. Notice how big the picture is. Grab the edges of it and expand it like the window on your iPhone. Notice what happens to those feelings. And then when you're ready, just wrap it around you like a big old blanket. And when you know you've got it, open your eyes and look up here. Wow, that's a good looking room. Look around you. Look at the people. Two minutes, and your world changes. All you got to do is know the system. Now when you walk up to people and you embody this energy, that's what they're going to feel when you come up and talk to them. Look at her. Okay? They're going to feel that. That's the connection everyone's looking for. You could do it your whole life. No one ever taught you. Have a seat. Imagine what you'll know a few minutes from now. Every physiological position our body takes has an emotional counterpart. If you spend a lot of time being depressed, being angry, chances are you're doing a lot of this. Right? Change it. First, become aware. Just because you didn't know this was happening doesn't mean it wasn't controlling you. That's the first thing you need to understand. Anything outside of your awareness is outside of your control. Just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it isn't controlling you. Okay? The feelings we move through the world in will attract people with similar feelings. They'll attract people with similar energies or vibrations or outlooks. Okay? If you want to become more approachable, if you want to create connections with people, you have to engender the energy or the vibe of connection. The fastest way to do it is to remember a time when that was true for you, stand that way, breathe that way, practice it every day until it becomes your natural way of moving through the world. And you will be amazed at how many people start becoming more and more attracted to you. Cool part is, by the time you finish tonight's workshop, you'll actually be able to see when more and more people are becoming attracted to you, and you'll gain more choice about who you want to go further with. Is that useful? This means yes, this means no.
Yes.
Thank you, yes! All right, ladies, a couple more, and we're going to kind of move on to the next stage. Guys, just walk up and say hi. After you've controlled your state, which means you've taken on that energy of connection, of being relaxed but dominant, so that you can walk up, you can move through the room, or move through wherever you're moving, and make that positive eye contact. See, she can't help herself, right? And you guys know I'm going to do it to you, right? And yet, your body goes into it because your conscious mind, the part of you that thinks, the part of you that rationalizes, that makes up reasons for why things are the way they are, is the least informed and the last to know anything. The reason you guys can't help but smile when I come up and I smile at you, right, is because it's processed through your body first. 2/3 of your brain has already decided to smile before you're even aware that you're smiling. Okay? We try to talk to people, we try to relate to people from the rational, logical part of our brains and get them emotionally engaged. And then hopefully from getting that emotional engagement, we try to get them physically engaged, if you know what I mean. And I think you do. However, it works best in the opposite direction. Start from the body, activate the emotions, and the people you interact with will come up with their own reasons for liking you, for wanting to be with you, for wanting to connect with you. It doesn't matter if you're a man seeking to influence a woman or a woman seeking to influence a man. It's the same process. Does that make sense? Okay. Ladies, real quick. I could skip to the very last one, which is where you pat his butt, but we won't go there. How many guys have ever gone to a club and seen a woman dancing alone to the music? Guess what? Invitation to approach. Believe it or not. Of the women surveyed, 253 said that when they wanted somebody to approach, they would dance alone to the music in their vicinity. Hidden in plain sight. Makes perfect sense from the female perspective, but not so much to us, right? Look straight at him and flit your hair. How many guys have seen a woman go? You gotta stop taking yourself so seriously, guys. Seriously. Okay. Keep a fixed gaze on him. How many guys have ever been creeped out by a woman who just kept looking at them? Did you go talk to her or go running screaming for the exit?
I actually went and talked.
You actually went and talked to her. How'd that work out?
I dated her.
Guess it worked. Ladies are like, that is so brazen. I would never do that. Yeah. He got a date. Right? If some of these things are kind of giving you that, I don't know if I can do that kind of a feeling, that's exactly where you need to go. Because it's the things that have been keeping you comfortable that have been keeping you stuck. Firemen, policemen, soldiers are trained to run into danger when everybody else is running away from it. What makes you an alpha, what makes you dominant, what makes you strong is what you do in the presence of a challenge. That's one of the things that signals who rises to the top of the social hierarchy, who gets the prize. That's the intention behind most of the behaviors that women generate. Right? Ladies, same thing. If you want more guys to approach you, you've got to signal approachability on a much broader scale, on a much broader wavelength than you're used to. And yes, you'll attract a lot more crap. I'm sorry, but that's why the next part of the process is important, the screening process. That's why having that defense mechanism or that defense system set up where you can extract yourself from the situation. Remember, the bit shield works because it's designed to screen out the lowest common denominator of morons, the ones who don't care about your boundaries. Remember the guys who aren't approaching you, the ones I said are respecting your boundaries? They're the ones who'll get the subtler messages. The email bid, or the I gotta get my drink, or I gotta go talk to my friend. They're the ones whose self-esteem is worth saving. Maybe it's not a fit, and you know it. You know it's not going anywhere. But is it worth destroying another guy's self-esteem? Right? The guys who are more socially aware, the guys who are picking up on the signals you're sending out that would actually be a better fit, they deserve better. Don't they? Just an idea. Don't you deserve better? Screw the guys. Don't you deserve better? Okay, if you want a better quality of guy, you got to set up a better system. Right? Just a thought. It's your choice. You can choose to do or not do anything you want. What? You're all giggling at me over here. All right, one last one. Again, look at him, toss your hair, and look back again. So this guy, anybody here was heard of something called the Clinton gaze? Okay. Clinton had extraordinary success rate with women. And every now and then you'll hear women talking about having met Bill Clinton. And he does this thing with his eyes that when he does it, it just rocks their world. And it basically goes something like this. If I have two people here and I'm talking to Amanda and I'm pressing the flesh, so to speak, and I'll hold their eyes. And as I go this way, what just happened? You're speechless. Right? I go here and I just give you that little double take and I hold your eyes for a second. The hair toss is in the similar category. You make eye contact, toss your hair, and look back. Seems to a woman, it seems very blatant. To a guy, it's like subtle. No, I'm serious.
It's bait.
It's bait, exactly. But you've got to do that because we're stupid. We don't get it. A woman can walk up to a guy in a bar and literally go, and he'll sit there and wonder what she meant. Is she fucking with me? Yeah. She did that to every other guy in the place. You went there. All right. Guys, if you're going to make the approach, ladies, you got to signal approachability. Okay? You got to set up your system so you get a bigger population to sort from. But you got to be willing to sort. Because it's just like panning for gold. You're going to have to strain out the mud, the crap, to find those gold nuggets. Right? But if you keep digging in a sand pit, you're not going to get anywhere. Right? Sometimes my metaphors are a little weird. All right. Let's talk about what I call the Universal Attraction Conversation Protocol. 3 magic questions. Many of you have heard this. You heard me talk about it. There is varying layers of sophistication to this, but if you just get the basic framework, you will have a system in place, provided you practice the connection state drill I just gave you, you will have a way to rapidly, consistently screen the good ones from the bad, and at the same time, generate attraction that is honest, legitimate, and deep. Many times in as little as 20 minutes. Okay? Field tests show it's actually not 20 minutes, it's 15, but I give us I give it a 5-minute buffer. I know it takes a long time, but hey. Now, keep in mind that it can be as quick, depending on the environment and the context, as quick as 15 minutes, or you can spend all night exploring one another on multiple levels simultaneously. You can create deep connection. Gentlemen, you can learn to connect and validate a woman the likes of which she has never dreamed. Ladies, you can hook the guy you want and have him in love with you, literally, by the end of the night. You can make such an impression on him that without sleeping with him, you're all he can think about. Would that be useful? Well, if not, we'll just call it a night. All right, write this down. Put 3 bullet points on your notes. Next to those 3 bullet points, here's what I want you to write. Location, occasion. Location/occasion. Bullet number 2, career/passion. Bullet number 3, childhood memories. Childhood. Remember, in any interaction, especially with people we don't know, we don't walk up and say, "Hey baby, how you doing?" Right? We don't go all Vegas and Lothario on them, right? How many women know when a guy's hitting on them? Okay. Well, I see some hands that don't go up. Okay. All right. Usually if they're going, "Hi, how you doing?" that's a hint. Okay? What we want to do is we want to be able to initiate a conversation that doesn't set off all the alarms, bells, and whistles. Go, here's another guy trying to hit on me. Now, there tends to be sometimes a knee-jerk response anyway. But the kinds of questions you ask have to be ones that are non-invasive, non-threatening, and open-ended. They need to be things that do several things simultaneously. Remember that everyone you meet is already in trance. Technical term? Asleep. Okay? Everyone you meet is in their head making movies, thinking about what they're going to be doing next, where they're going to go. Did they leave the stove on? Does laundry need to be done? Whether they got to drop the dog off at the pet manicurist, whatever. They're in their head doing everything but interacting with the world. Your attention at any given moment can be one of 2 places. It can be inside or outside. In other words, you can be out in the world paying attention, or you could be in your head making movies and pictures and thinking about everything else but what's going on around you. Right? This is the natural state of 99% of the population. Okay? They're in their head. They're not aware. They're not interacting with you. Even if they're going through the motions, they're not driving the bus. Anybody ever get in your car to go to work, wind up at work, and not remember how the hell you got there? Who's driving the car? Right? That's the normal state of the average human being. It's not good for dating. It's not good for creating a connection. Why? There's nothing to connect with. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get them out of their head and into the world. The other thing about being inside your head is you can be in one of 2 states. You can be associated or dissociated. Think of it. How many here play video? Anyway, anybody here ever play video games? Okay. Anybody here ever see somebody playing a video game? You're really testing me today, aren't you, God? That's all right. Okay. Anybody here know what first person perspective is? Second person? Third person. When you make a movie in your head, or when you think of something that you really, really, really enjoy doing, and you can make it inside your own head, so you don't have to tell me what it is, so make it as juicy as you want. As you look at that picture in your head, are you seeing yourself, or are you looking at it as if you're looking at it through your own eyes? How about you? Second one, looking at it through your own eyes? Excellent. How about you? How about you?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
I had a feeling I'd get that. Make a picture in your head of you doing something you enjoy. Now, as you go through the image, do you see yourself in the picture, or do you see it as if it's actually happening around you?
No, I see myself in the picture.
Okay, that's what she's got is dissociation. Okay, that's most of what we do. I picked an intense image because I wanted somebody to pull up an associated image. Usually the more enjoyable an experience is, the more associated we become. The more or fearful we are of the image, unless it's like a phobia, the more dissociated we tend to be. People who have chronic fear problems are usually not dissociated from the pictures in their head. They're associated, so they're feeling it totally without filters. If all we do is take them out of the picture and look at it from a distance, the fear diminishes. It's just how your nervous system is built. Okay? Most of the things that give us trouble are just coded in a way that creates that process, and we don't realize that we can change the code. And I have whole classes devoted to that. But for this particular application, we need to understand that the optimal state that we want is somebody who is external or outside of their head and associated. We want them engaged in the moment with us. And we need to do it in a way that doesn't signal he's hitting on me alarms or the creepy alarms. So we want to start to ask and open a dialogue that is not threatening, not geared around seduction or attraction or hitting on anybody in any way. And the way we do that is we ask an open-ended question that is an opinion about A, the location that we're in, or the occasion we're there. I had one student who came to my workshop when I taught this about 2 years ago, about a year ago. And he came to the workshop, and he went out the next night, and he likes to go to bars. He's a private investigator, and he likes to blow off steam and stuff like that. But I taught him this process, and he just walked up to one of the women, and he said, "Hey, what are the drink specials tonight?" He's been dating her ever since. Right? How many times does a woman or a guy, someone come to you and ask you a simple question like, how's the food here? Or what do you think of the band? Or what kind of, think about all these little just very superficial, very chit-chatty, small-talky type questions that really don't seem very invasive, right? They don't set off any whistles. They're very nonchalant, right? But they give you a window. Because you're asking an opinion, because you're asking them to think about something, it forces them to move from outside of their head and into the environment where you can now create interaction, right? You don't ask yes or no questions, because then the interaction's done, you got to start over again. But simple questions, what did you think of the game last night? I didn't see it. Oh, well, are you a sports fan? And now we're off, right? Simple questions, simple interrogative dialogue. The other thing you want to do when you start to work with this process is you want to remember to do what we call softening. We don't want the interaction to sound like an interrogation or a job interview, right? So what we do is we soften the questions. And when I say soften the questions, what I mean is we tell the person why we're about to ask them what we're about to ask them. So if I were to ask you, if I could walk, what's your name again?
Ada.
Ada. If I were to go up to Ada and say, so what do you think of the seminar tonight?
Pretty good.
Good. Oh, shit. See the little backup? I'm curious about something, Ada, just so I understand you better. What was it about tonight that you've really enjoyed so far? What'd you see? More importantly, what didn't you see?
Right,
See? I did exactly the same thing, except I softened as I approached. That unconscious knee-jerk response is what we call reactance. It's an avoidance of being interacted with without being asked, or being asked a question and being put on the defensive. This is why a lot of times our conversations break down. It's not because of the question, but the way we asked it. How many people here have heard of a book called Double Your Dating? Wow. Okay. It's actually a pretty good read. It's not real hardcore on the seduction field, but it's very popular. And it talks about a concept called cocky funny. Cocky funny means that witty, sarcastic kind of humor, kind of very Han Solo-ish, James Bond-ish kind of humor that everybody aspires to. The problem is people get so stressed out and so afraid when they interact that they become all cock and no fun. It really happens because you're stressed out, because you're worried about making a bad impression. Those worries and those fears, they take the playfulness and the social and the sensory acuity out of your interaction. And so when you try to give us like a witty remark, it comes off as insulting. This is why we have to spend a lot more time practicing positive, playful moods. Because if we don't, then the negativity can sneak in, or the stress can sneak in and undermine our attempts at being funny or humorous. That being said, I'm going to just give a little sidebar real quick. When you want to get flirty, when you want to get seductive without being creepy, there's a very... Notice I... it's extremely important, right? First thing, relax your jaw. The jaw muscle is not a muscle that we consciously pay attention to, but it will creep people out if you smile with a tight jaw. She has such good reactions. Oh, how you doing? Look at her. Right? I tensed my jaw. I gave her positive eye contact, but I tensed my jaw. And there was a creepiness to it, wasn't there? Right? So the whole idea is we have to practice relaxing that jaw, because even though consciously she didn't really know what she was looking for, even though I pointed it out, it still affected her. Because unconsciously, you're always sorting for this information. You're always processing this information. And it colors your perceptions without you realizing why. This is why you get creeped out around certain people, and they've done nothing obviously wrong. Unconsciously, you've picked this stuff up. Oops, sorry. Okay, so relax the jaw. The other thing is when we approach people, anytime we have symmetrical body language and we face people head on, it's very dominant, it's very upright, it's very noble. It's not flirty. Watch, I'm standing pretty symmetrical, right? Watch what happens. Feel what happens in your body when I go asymmetrical. How many of you have got this funny, like goofy, quirky energy, right? That playful, bratty, what's he up to, right? Right? All I did was shift my posture. You see women when they get in very seductive poses. You look at a lot of these girly magazines, even the guy magazines to a certain degree. You don't see them going, do you? You see this? Asymmetrical. Asymmetry signals playfulness. It signals eroticism. It signals that, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Whereas this energy doesn't, right? There's a reason why when women become attractive, even guys to a certain degree, when women become attractive, they tilt their head. Okay? It's a smaller version of this. You know, if I'm talking, what's your name again? Lucy. If I say, hi Lucy, or I go, Lucy. Look at her.
You're funny.
I'm funny.
I think so.
Exactly. Do you think I'm creepy?
No.
That's right. It's a little bit creepy. I'm exaggerating, but I'm doing it for a reason, right? She knows what I'm doing, right? She sorts by exception, so I know if there's anything that's out of all the kilter, she's going to pick it up, right? So just understanding the difference between symmetrical body language and asymmetry. And this was subtle, right? But now you're sensitized to it and you're feeling it. These things are going on all the time. And they're changing your feelings and they're changing how you perceive people. That's why the whole long eye contact from a symmetrical posture like this, not so much, right? Sit, turn to the person next to you, look them in the eye, and then do the same thing. Go. It doesn't matter. Get over yourselves. It's a test, not a contest. If you can't do this when you're being trained, how are you going to do it out in the field?
You're going to die.
Exactly. And you're going to be like, I'm doing it. And the woman in the room is going, is he constipated or does he want to talk to me? Right?
It moves me involuntarily.
I know. I know. Welcome to the Matrix. Just imagine what you'll know in 10 minutes. Okay? But the first thing we want to do is we want to control our state. We want to get in that playful mindset. We want to sort for positive eye contact. We want to talk to people who genuinely want to talk to us. And we want to get playful. She can't help herself. She knows what I'm going to do.
No, because you know what? You attract that.
I attract?
Yeah, no, you attract that response because you are so smiley. So obviously the person that is next to you is going to smile and laugh and all that.
I love you. Mwah. Give her a big round of applause. She has no idea why I'm thanking her. You just validated everything I've been teaching for the last hour and a half. Yes.
Well, you sort of gave the example, but could you explain why asymmetry creates that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, you could. Okay.
Yeah.
Could you do it then?
Oh, could I explain? Can I explain why? Oh, okay. Actually, I'm not really sure. I could only say that God said so, and she's smarter than me. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. Is it Phil? I don't know why that is. Gillian?
Okay, so when you're sort of slammed.
Again, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the whole point is,
When you're asymmetrical, you're relaxed.
yes, it forces you to relax and get playful.
You're in a position of surrender and approachability.
You could be, right? Could be. Again, we can come up with all these cool rationales and plausible reasons why this could work. But the bottom line is, it works, so use it. Come up with your own rationale and your own reasoning for why it works for you. Yes?
I actually have a theory about that.
Uh-oh. Well, let's move on, because if we give me the theory. Do you guys want to hear his theory, or should we just go on? No, they don't want to hear it. Okay. Sorry? Email me. Okay, so we've gone into a venue, or we've gone into an interaction where there's somebody we want to meet, somebody we want to interact with. Remember, an invitation to interact is not an invitation to sex. Oh, damn it! There's a few more layers, no pun intended, to the process, right? All right, ladies, especially for you. Because you signal approach does not mean you're inviting somebody to have sex. But I want you guys to give yourselves permission that if the interaction moves in that direction and he's passed all the tests, don't hold yourself back unnecessarily because mommy told you to 30 years ago. Okay? A lot of the high-level female dating coaches I study and study with show us that a lot of very quality interactions do in fact happen after sex on the first date. Okay? Huh? Icebreaker. Not exactly. Can I share something with you guys? That's not a brag, but it is a fact. That in the time when I was out in the field and I was doing a lot of dating and I was researching. Remember, I didn't teach this stuff for you. I didn't learn this stuff for you. I did it for me. One of the reasons in 2005 I was voted one of the top 10 attraction experts of the year by seductionlayer.com and The Art of Approaching. They're sites that are still available online now. You can go and research it. Okay? I was not voted that because of my kill rate or my the numbers that I scored, so to speak. I achieved that rating, A, because of my ability to connect with a woman so fully, so completely, that she would sleep with me on the first date because she was afraid she would never see me again. Okay? Now, I don't know anybody who would like to connect with a guy that deeply, or who would like to connect with a woman. Why? Because I got to know her and understand her better than anybody she'd ever known, and I communicated it to her in such a way that she recognized it. She felt seen, she felt validated. And ladies and gentlemen, a woman will kill for that kind of connection. And if you understand how to pay attention to her in that way, you will know exactly what to do, what to say, and how to say it to give her the experience she has always fantasized about and never, ever been able to find. She'll give you all the information. I see you, Carlos. If you just pay attention. Ladies, you can do the exact same thing. You just have to do it in a slightly different order. Okay? This goes back to biology and social programming. But it's the same process. Okay? Carlos.
What was that validated and what was the
Seen. Heard. How many ladies have said this to their girlfriends? He just doesn't get me. I need a guy who gets me. Right? Does anybody here know who John Gottman is? If you don't, he's probably next to Virginia Satir, the founder of Marriage and Family Therapy, the world's leading expert on relationships. If you've read a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, there's a whole chapter on it dedicated to him. He runs an organization called the Love Lab. And he developed an algorithm, a computer algorithm, that would successfully predict how rapidly a couple was likely to divorce within 20 minutes of them interacting, with about a 93 to 97% accuracy rate. What most people don't know is that John sat back and said, wait a minute. If I can predict with that degree of accuracy, just from the behavioral, nonverbal interactions of people, how quickly and how likely a couple is to divorce, is there a variable or a set of variables that if that variable is there, if it's present, the marriage makes it? And so he started doing more research, and he found one. If this variable is there, pretty much regardless of, unless you're going to sign the papers tomorrow, then maybe not. But if this variable is there, it's a two-part variable, the marriage makes it. You ready? If a man can communicate to a woman in such a way that she perceives that he is being influenced by her good intentions, the marriage makes it. I always get that. If a man can communicate to a woman in such a way that she perceives he is being affected by her good intentions, the marriage makes it. In human terms, if she perceives he gets where she's coming from and gives her that understanding, notice he didn't say anything about obeying, the marriage makes it. Remember, 60% of all approaches initiated by, 80% of all breakups initiated by, who are they breaking up with? Just an idea. Okay? Now, here's the cool thing. Once you understand a woman's world, in general, each of you are unique and precious and special, I get that. Neurologically, when a woman gets stressed out, she gets more and more specific. She gets more and more detailed. I think the technical word is persnickety. When a man gets stressed out, his behaviors and the information he sorts for gets more global, gets more general. Now imagine for a moment, he's had a hard day at the office, she's had a rough day with the kids and her job and dealing with the pool man and everything else. He comes home, she starts talking to him. She starts asking more and more specific questions about his day. He doesn't want to talk about it. What happens? Boom. Right? Let's suppose she had a rough day. This is where another guy, we screw it up again. She's had a rough day. He comes home, his day's been okay, he's not stressed out, he's not super tense. She starts going off about all the problems she's had. Right? What do, guys? We start telling her how to fix it. And all hell breaks loose. Why? Because she doesn't need you to solve her problem. She just needs you to stand there and let her vent. But we don't think that way, guys. We see a problem. We see Mastodon, dead Mastodon, moving on. Problem solved, right? That's how we think. It's not how women work. They need to vent. They need to express. They need to let you stand there and be slimed. And if you do that, 20, 30 minutes later, after you wash it all off, she'll be happy as a clam. And you will be the hero till you try to solve her problem. Because chances are she's already solved it. She's more than smart enough to fix her own problems. She just needs to get it out. But we don't think that way. Do we? But there's your problem. You need to do this, this, and this. You don't get me. It's not that I'm... She goes, honey, I'm thirsty. Oh, here's a glass of water. No, you don't understand. I want you to understand that, yes, I too have been thirsty. This is everybody laughing, but the women are getting this. The guy's going, what the fuck is he saying? When women communicate, they share stories so they can bond. They don't share stories to solve problems per se. Ladies, true or not true? Okay? When a woman tells you a story, she's not asking you to solve a problem. She's looking for a way to connect. The fastest way to connect, here's the technique, guys. Whatever word she uses to describe her feelings, to describe her experience, when you talk to her, use those words. You think I'm lying? I am paid an egregious amount of money to train professional influencers, people who go into juries, who have to influence judges, things like that. I teach them a technique called the echo technique, along with 3 magic questions, which is what we're going for. The echo technique is very simple. The words that come out of a person's mouth that they use to describe an experience are directly and indirectly connected to the building blocks of their identity, to the emotional experiences that they're bringing to bear on that situation. They have a neurological, deep-level significance to that person. You don't even have to know what they mean by those words. If all you do is describe your experiences using their words, they will feel validated, understood, and gotten. Don't believe me. Just go out and do it. Seriously. It's that simple. Back when I had my martial arts school in Florida, for those of you who don't know, I've been doing martial arts longer than I haven't. I have an 8th degree black belt in one art, and I do a lot of very weird esoteric things that actually influence how I teach persuasion and influence. But one of the things that I had a school when I was in Florida, and this was how I signed up and got most of my clients to come in and book lessons. It would go something like this. Ring, ring, hello. This is David from Coral Springs Martial Arts Academy. How can I help you today? Hi, my name's Bernice. I'm looking for karate lessons for my 8-year-old son. Hi, Bernice. So let me get this straight. You're looking for karate lessons for your 8-year-old son? Yeah! Great. Well, tell me more about what's your son's name? That's Bobby. Oh, well, tell me more a little bit about Bobby. What's going on? What's important about karate lessons for your 8-year-old son? Well, you know, he's not the biggest kid in his class. He's kind of started school a little early, and he's getting picked on a lot. We think he could use a little bit more focus. Oh, I see. So he started school when he was a little bit younger than the rest, and he's a little bit smaller than everybody else, and he's getting picked on a little bit. He goes, yeah! Well, that's great, Bernice. Listen, here's what we got. We have a program that's specifically designed for kids in Bobby's age range. It's for 8 to 10 years old. It meets 3 days a week. We're giving a free private, free free lessons and a uniform. And it's specifically designed to help people who might be a little smaller getting picked on and give them a little bit more focus so that they can compensate for not, maybe being the biggest or the smartest or starting at a different time. We have two appointments available. We have one Thursday at 5:30 and one Thursday at 6:30, which would be easier for you. I think one at 6:30 would be best. Great, I'll pencil you in, we'll call you then. Hell no. No. We're into the bi-gender stuff now, guys. Okay? The bottom line is the words that come out of a person's mouth are native to their internal code. Their map of the world. We kept talking about it at the beginning of this seminar. It all goes back to that. Everything that comes out of your mouth is a direct representation of the structure of how you think. It's connected to the most fundamental primal levels of your being, i.e. your identity, and the emotions connected to those values. We call them values and criteria. Okay? Your values are the building blocks of your identity. They're the feeling states and the words that you use to define what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what's ideal and what's not ideal in your life. Along with that value or that word is a set of rules by which people understand they're getting what they want. For instance, if we have a conversation, what's your name again?
Ada.
Ada. If I'm having a conversation with Ada and we're talking about fruit, she says she's hungry for some fruit, right? And I go and I grab an orange and I bring her an orange. She goes, I don't want that. I go, what do you mean you want? You want your fruit? No, I said, I want an apple. Right? Got the word, that was the value, right? But she had an apple, I brought her an orange. She didn't get what she wanted even though I tried to give her what she wanted. Why? Because the rule by which she recognized she was getting it is different from the label we use to describe it. Does that make sense? Now, if I were to bring her the apple and she ate the apple, she would feel what? If you were hungry for an apple and I gave you an apple, how would you feel? Satisfied. Validated. Happy. When you give people their label, but you mismatch their rules, they feel unheard. They feel like you haven't really gotten it, in spite of your best efforts. Two people are in a relationship. They have the shared value of respect. And they're talking, they get in a fight one day. But one person's rules for respect are, I know you respect me when you tell me the truth and you tell me like it is, regardless of how it might make me feel, because I need to hear that. That's how I know you respect me. That's a very man thing, by the way. Beware a woman who has that, because you're going to get emasculated more often than not. I know I married one. So. But maybe this other person's definition or rules of respect are, I know you respect me when you word things in such a way that you know you aren't going to hurt my feelings. You say things in a way that I can get the message, but you're not going to hurt me. Now, what do you think is going to happen when these two people get in a discussion? They're going to accuse each other of doing what? Disrespecting one another, right? Why? Because the rules don't match. They both have this value that has to be respected of being respected, right? And yet they're not. So when we start to go into level 2 questions, how the hell do you get into this? Level 2 questions, where we start talking about career, passion. When I talk about passion, I'm not necessarily talking about sensual passion, although it could be. I'm talking about, what do you love to do? What are you passionate about? What are you excited about? Okay? The reason I put that in there is because this protocol I'm teaching you was originally designed for women to be used on men. Okay? It was specifically designed to help women sort the good ones from the bad ones fast, without going through 6 weeks of dating. Okay? 15 minutes of conversation, 6 weeks of dating. All right? Level 2 question. Career. Hope I spelled that right. Passion. We focus on career because in the United States and most westernized countries, this is pretty much as true for women now as it was for men. In America, you are what you do. When you ask somebody what they do for a living, they don't say, I do accounting. They don't say, I do computer programming. They don't say, I manage an office. They say, I am an accountant. I am a computer programmer. I am an office manager. Those are identity statements. On a neuro-linguistic level, what they do is equivalent. It's what we call complex equivalence to who they are, how they see themselves. This is why many times when a person in a relationship loses their job, the relationship goes to shit. Because that person doesn't know who they are anymore. And they go into all kinds of weird behaviors and weird things, right? The other part where we start to become identified is with our mates. That's the other one. That's where women kind of sow their own downfall if they're in a relationship. They don't realize it. And guys, if they understood it, they would actually know how to change what they do so the relationship would make it. But if we have time, we'll get into that. What a person does is equivalent to who they are in their own mind. If they love what they do, there's a lot of status with what they do, then they will move through the world like a person of status, more often than not. When it goes away, so does their identity, so does their self-esteem. When you get somebody to talk about themselves, they will talk to you for hours and think you're the most brilliant conversationalist on the planet, and you don't have to say a frickin' word. Okay? How many people have been on a date and not known how to carry on a conversation, or how to keep the conversation going? Gentlemen, how many times, ladies, let me ask you this, how many times have you been on a date with somebody and he won't shut up about himself? Right? And by the end of the day, by the end of the night, he's convinced he's completely in love with you and you can't wait to get away. Right? Because he didn't get it. The whole idea is to get the person you seek to attract to talk about themselves to you. Women intuitively understand this, which is why they go on so many first dates and never call back or go out on the next one, because the guy didn't get it. If you want somebody to become attracted to you, here it is. Get them to see the parts they love most about themselves in you. A person can't talk about the things that are most emotionally relevant to themselves without unconsciously, automatically linking it to what they're paying attention to. Okay? If I'm talking to you about my values, if I'm talking to you about the things that are important to me, I'm going to experience a rush of pleasure. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to want to tell you more. The longer I talk, the better you look. It's literally that true. Okay? While I'm doing it, I'm going to be giving you all kinds of information about my world, about how I see it, how my position in it, what's important to me on a values level. It's going to come out in the words I use to describe my experiences. It's going to come out in the kinds of experiences and the kind of answers I give you to those questions. So for instance, if we've initiated a conversation, we've gone through the superficial level, I've asked you a few opinions, we've got a little bit of banter going on, I might say, my name's David, what's your name?
John.
Hi John, it's great to meet you, thanks for all your information. Curious, what do you do, man?
I'm a pizza delivery driver.
Pizza delivery driver. Oh, that's awesome. How did you get into that? Just wake up one day and decide to deliver pizzas, or?
A friend got me the job.
Oh, cool. So what do you love about what you do?
Meet lots of interesting people.
Lots of interesting people. It's like, what's your long range goal? What do you really want to? You want to deliver pizzas all your life? You want to own the chain? What's up?
No, I'd like to finish school and become an economist, own my own company.
Economist. Wow. That's a lofty goal, man. What inspired you to do that?
I'm just really interested in it.
Interested in it. Cool. Now, John is very he doesn't mince words very much. But the whole idea is, every time I talked about what you couldn't see is every time I talked to him and I asked him about what he did, his pupils dilated. Okay? That's a yes, have some response. Anytime you talk to somebody and their pupils start to get bigger, one of two things is going on. They're either terrified, in which case you look at the ground and see if there's a puddle, or they're attracted. In which case, no, I'm not even going to go there. Somebody went there for me, I see. But the bottom line is I call it the pupil dance. When people are attracted to you, when they like what they see, whether it's something physical like a person or their paycheck, their pupils will literally get larger. Seriously, anything that we like, our pupils dilate so we can see more of it. When we're terrified, like fleeing terrified, our pupils dilate so we can see danger more, so we can get away from it better, right? So if you're interacting with a woman and her pupils get bigger and bigger and bigger, and she's not screaming for the bouncer, needing you in the nards, chances are she's probably into you. Ladies, same thing. If you can see their eyes, they're not doing this, right? The more their pupils get big, the bigger their pupils get, the more attracted to you they become. It's that simple, okay? I'm not going to get into all the variations of pupil dilation, but these are things that you can actively look for. The most important part is when you start interacting, you look at their pupils as soon as you start to interact. And then as the conversation continues, you'll notice the pupils getting bigger or smaller as you move back and forth through positive or not so positive or towards things they enjoy. And what happens is, as a byproduct of that, is you're holding their eyes longer, but in a non-creepy way. Eye contact studies show that the longer you hold positive eye contact with somebody, the more aroused and attracted to you they become. That's neurology, that's neuroscience.
How do the cocktails enter into all that?
Well, that's just inhibition lowering. I don't do anything I do. None of the stuff when I was back in the field involved alcohol. I don't drink. I mean, it's, well, I like cocaine, but only the smell. But actually, I'm a neurolinguistic programmer. I don't need drugs. You think I'm kidding? Anybody here ever been under the influence? Anybody here honest? I have a different, we'll go into that another time. We have this cool little technique in NLP called drug of choice, where using the power of NLP and hypnosis, we can bring back any substance-induced state you've ever experienced without the need of the substance.
What's NLP?
Huh?
What is NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
Oh, gotcha.
It's a very advanced form of communication based on how the nervous system codes subjective experience. Richard Bandler, the founder of NLP, likes to call it the study of superior thinking. Okay? But bottom line is that everything that we do, everything we experience, has a process and a structure, i.e., there's a code that our nervous system uses to make it happen. If we understand how that code works, we gain the ability to change the code. And when you change your code, you change your life. It gives you more freedom, more control, more choice about how you want to feel and who you want to be. A lot of what I'm teaching you is derived through the use of neuro-linguistic programming. And there's other disciplines as well, social psychology, neuroscience, marriage and family therapy, intense field work, okay? Somebody keeps laughing at it. You! I say intense field work, she goes, I know what you're thinking. And I hear this, sorry, that was a different class. I did a 2-day workshop on self-hypnosis and self-transformation over the weekend, and one of the running jokes was, making these very vivid, sensual images, and we just kept doing this weird porn star, 70s porn music as an anchor. I mean, anybody here know when I say anchor, do you know what that means? Okay, everybody here have a favorite song? Because I'm happy. Welcome to the world of anchors. I give a song, it triggers a memory, that memory triggers a feeling, you go into the feeling. That's an anchor. We're doing it all the time. Okay? Yes?
Say there is a way to make a person feel in one way or the other without touching that person?
Oh yeah, lots of ways to do stuff. It's just we have to transmit and give you exposure to things in a way that you're willing to accept. Some of the things that I do and that I teach people to do border on like Jedi mind stuff. Okay, and if I started to tell you about it, you would think, hey, I'm either the biggest psychotic on the planet, or I'm a big fucking liar. Because a lot of what I teach and what I do and how I give things to people is so far outside of what you might consider possible that you're just not willing to go there. So I give you stuff that you can start applying right away. Can anybody here not walk up to somebody? Anyway, can anybody here not stand or remember what it felt like to feel connected to somebody? Can anybody not remember that? Okay, can anybody not remember to stand that way and let the feeling come back? Can anybody remember how to not to look somebody in the eye and see if they actually want to talk to you or interact with you? It's very small, very actionable steps, right? Things that you can do. Can anybody not walk up to somebody and say, hi? I'm curious, what brought you here today? Or, what do you think about X? I do this all the time in Starbucks, right? I used to, I don't want to get super off field. I want to get through the 3 magic questions. If I have time, I want to talk to you about the mating dance. I may pull Amanda up here again just to go through it, just because it's fun and it's something you all need to understand, right? Through most of the mating dance, which is a body language silo, the woman is leading the dance, except at 2 key points. At those key points, there's one thing a man has to do. If he does it, it's like the video game, he goes to the bonus round. Right? If he misses it, he goes back to the beginning. And she goes, loser! Right? And every time I teach it, I reach a certain point, I start to question the guys in the audience, and they always get it wrong. So, just put it out there. When we talk to people about what they're passionate about, and when I say 3 magic questions, I want you to understand something. It's a code. It's a code for categories of question. You want to come up with as many different ways to ask opinions about things in the environment or the reason somebody's there as possible in a way that they flesh out. They don't give you a yes or no clue. Does that make sense? All right. When you go to this level, you ask them what they do, and you repeat their words back to them. They say, I deliver pizza. I'm a pizza delivery guy. I say, oh, you're a pizza delivery guy. The moment I said that, he's like, yeah. What'd you feel when I said that?
Good.
Good. Stupid. He delivers pizzas. I said, you deliver pizzas? He goes, yeah. It sounds ridiculous, but it's exactly the way everyone in this room works. I was hired to go out to Israel 2 years ago to do some trainings for Essence Security. It's a technology company. Now, you have not seen a tough audience until you've been in a room full of Israelis. I love them. They're great people. I do, but they're tough. They gotta be, right? They're very warm, loving, genuine people, but they're tough. And I'm teaching them the echo technique. And I have a guy sitting like right there, right where you are. And he's one of the R&D guys. I had to present to the VP, the vice presidents. I had to teach the marketing people, and I had to teach the R&D people, which is just a bunch of professional smart guys. And ironically, the marketers and the R&D people weren't getting along. Go figure. Okay. So one of the R&D guys is sitting here, and I'm telling him about the echo technique, and I'm telling them just give their words back to them. And they go, I do not believe that will work. I said, you don't believe it'll work? He goes, no, I don't believe it'll work. Why do you think that won't work? And he goes, well, because we're just blah, 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 blah. And I go, oh, blah, 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 right? And I go back and forth, just giving his words back. And he's getting more and more into it. And he's just getting excited and doing this and doing that. People are not that stupid, so you don't think people are that stupid? No, I don't. No, you don't. Right. I get it. And his friends are looking at him going. And about 5 minutes into the interaction, I looked at him and I said, have you realized yet that I'm just repeating your words back to you? Now, did you ever see Bugs Bunny? Or like where the guy's like, all of a sudden he's been given like this overdose of hot sauce, and you see the red just kind of going up. That was my friend. And he looks at me, and he looks at his friends who are going, and he goes, "Are we really so stupid?" I said, "You're not stupid. You're just selfish." And I meant that from a good place. Every one of us is looking for our soulmate, the person who completes us. Even the guys, they just won't be sappy about it.
You complete.
I get that a lot. However, what completes us is what matches us. It's not opposites attract. They do. They don't stick. They don't stick. You need to be enough like the person you want to attract to be familiar and enticing, and different enough to be exciting without being scary. Or that they are so different that they can't relate to you. All human endeavor is a quest for connection and control, in one degree or another. The fastest way to connect with any human being on the planet is to mirror their words back to them, even if they know you're doing it. After 2 or 3 times, they won't care. There's a myth that's perpetuated by a lot of NLP trainers that the NLP teaches a lot of techniques for getting rapport with people, for getting that connection, so to speak. But there's a myth floating around there that if somebody knows that you're doing these rapport techniques, that as you do them and they know you're doing them, it'll break rapport. Not if you hold the frame. Not if you're authentic and honest about what you're doing and own it. You'll just overwrite their frame and they won't care after a couple of minutes. And if they do care that much, they're not the right person for you to be around. Problem solved. Yeah.
I would take a moment to validate that for you, because I was in a relationship with a fight bordered on murder.
Mm-hmm.
And she just started doing that to me.
Uh-huh.
When I was telling her what a wretched person she was, she would repeat, I'm a wretched person.
Yeah.
And at first I said, you're mocking me. You're mocking me. But it brought me down.
Yeah.
And then she would get into this hysterical state to where I thought literally, there's no way out of this. So I tried it on her, and it worked. I could even be mocking her, and it worked.
Yeah, we're that formulaic. We're that coded.
Yeah,
One of my,
bizarre.
Thank you for that story. One of my mentors, a guy by the name of Kenrick Cleveland, who you can Google, he's all over, he's forgotten more about persuading people than most of us will ever know. He used to sell memberships in a gym back when he was, before he became this persuasion guru, but he was learning NLP. And I usually tell this story in my persuasion influence class, but I'll tell it here because it's really kind of right along the lines of what you're doing. And he says he was working the front counter, and if you've ever been to some of the old health clubs, you had to show your membership card and swipe it before they'd let you go in. So he was working the front desk, and one day this huge steroid professional bodybuilder comes storming out of the men's room. He goes, "God damn it! There is no toilet paper in the men's room!" And Kenrick, who's not a small person either, kind of looks at him and goes, "Oh boy." And he's thinking, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? And then he goes, "Match him." And he looks at him and goes, "God damn it! There is no toilet paper in the men's room. You are a paying customer. You deserve to have toilet paper in the men's room. I will not stand for this. Somebody's going to hear about no toilet paper in the men's room." The guy goes, "Wait, hold on, man, calm down." And they de-escalated the scene, and they became, but wait, there's more. Because Phil wants to chime in, okay? A couple of days later, Kenrick's at the front gate. Another bodybuilder comes in. He didn't have his card. And Kenrick says, "I'm sorry, man, the rules are the rules. I can't let you in." And the guy goes off the deep end. And he reaches across and he grabs Kenrick. And Kenrick's like, "Oh!" And then, like the hand of God, this bigger arm than the one that grabbed Kenrick comes out of nowhere and grabs the other bodybuilder. And he goes, "That's my friend." The guy goes, "He's your friend?" You're going to leave him alone. I'm going to leave him alone. Okay? It seems, because you're not in the experience, because you're watching it from outside, it seems contrived. It seems like it just couldn't possibly work. It does. Over and over and over again. We need to hear our words coming back to us. When we look at somebody, we want to see the parts of them that are most like us. And when you can mirror that back to them, they will fall in love with you. Not just romantically, but spiritually. Because when you talk to them, and you talk to them in their words, and you mirror back to them those feeling states, every time you do, their emotions come up, and they're looking at you when the feelings come up. And they're the feelings that you want people to have when they look at you. But they're also telling you a lot about how they move through the world. So on one side, you're getting the keys to unlock their heart. That's a tremendous power to have over another human being. Use it wisely. At the same time, when you ask questions, the quality of the answers that they give you will tell you if you want them to be part of your life. One part of the equation gives you the ability to make them that. The other side of the equation gives you the ability to decide if you want it. If you ask somebody about their job, you say, well, I'm curious, what do you do for a living, Bob? And Bob says, I'm a marketing consultant. Really? Do you have your own company? He goes, yeah, I started my own company about 10 years ago, and I got this passion to learn about marketing and how to make money, and I just jumped in with both feet. I never looked back, and it's been going great ever since. Really? Where do you see yourself going in 5 years? Do you see yourself, having more offices? What's that look like for you? Well, I'm thinking about, hiring a few more people, training them up, and putting them out there in other locations, and we're working on them. And he goes into all these possibilities for himself. But he's told you right off the bat what kind of a person he is, how he moves through the world, what are his senses of possibility. If you met somebody like that, how would you feel about him? Would you want to maybe hang out with them a little bit more? But let's say, Bob, what do you do for a living? Well, I work for a marketing firm. Oh, really? You work for a marketing firm? How did you get into that? Well, my uncle owned the company, and he hired me, and I've been there about 10 years, and it's okay. I go, really, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, hopefully when my uncle passes away, I'll move up, and once I get out of rehab, I'll finally be able to move out of my mom's basement, and I think things will be good.
Like a fun guy. You better go ask somebody.
Now, I make a joke, but ladies, how many times have you asked somebody what they do for a living and gotten that? Right? Here's the ironic part. When you engage in the 3 Magic Questions protocol, you will gain tremendous, tremendous influence in their world. They will unconsciously connect to you. But you have to decide, and guys, it's the same for you, you have to decide if there's someone you want to be connected with. And you have to be a little bit mercenary about it, because you will go into trance too. You will start to feel invested in the relationship, and you may walk away from the practical move, which is next, and then transition into the level 3 questions where you really set the hook. Level 2 is where we generate attraction. Level 2 is where we begin to find out what are the building blocks of their identity and the emotions connected to it, so that we can use their words to link them to us and inject ourselves into their identity, make them feel validated, understood, and approved, which is what every guy wants. Okay? It also tells us, warning, Will Robinson, warning, danger, danger, eject now. Right? Now would be the time to hit the emergency bailout button on your cell phone. You ladies know what I'm talking about, right? Where you get the call from your roommate telling you to come home immediately because the parakeet's having an existential crisis.
20 minutes you can do that. But let's say he's passed the test. You've gotten his words or her words. Now you want to close the deal. When I say close, I'm not necessarily meaning sex. I'm talking about making sure there's a second date, making sure that there's a callback or whatever. You want to maybe even go a little deeper. The next question, I notice I said past or childhood. The exact question is, tell me by the way, how do people fall in love? How do we do it? Love has a structure, you know.
It has to be spontaneous.
Does it?
You cannot
Why are you here? You didn't come here to make think something spontaneous. You made to make it predictable and automatic. True or not true?
No, not true. Just
Okay, honest people. Who want to have more control of their dating life? You don't want to have more control over your dating life? Oh. Or you just want it to happen spontaneously?
I like it. Control.
You know what? Whatever you want. Remember, all I'm doing is showing you a system, a set of techniques. I'm not a romance cop. Okay? Use, if what I say to you resonates with you and you feel okay about it, use it. Go for it. Just tell them where you got it. Not the person you're using it on. Until long after. Then it won't matter. Okay? If it doesn't resonate, don't use it. Use this process in complete accordance with your own sense of personal ethics of right and wrong. There are people who listen to the things I say and they run screaming. Which, by the way, tells you something about you that you need to look into. Just saying, because I deal with that crap all the time. I can tell you that 90% of the women I deal with are victims of some form of sexual abuse. Okay? They come in to learn how to do a backflip better. I regress them to the first scene situation or event that has everything to do with why they're there. The presenting problem was to do a backflip better. They're 11 years old getting molested by their uncle. Okay? And that's the nice ones. You know, some of the, okay, I spend a lot of time setting women free. Okay? I'm on your side. One of the ways I do that is by creating better men. Okay? Take that for what it's worth. Now, tell me about your childhood. Who were your friends? What did you play at? Actually, tell me about where you grew up. Who were your friends? What did you play at? Spin the ball. Spin the ball. It's not about you, Carlos. Tell me about where you grew up. Who were your friends? What did you play at? Now, I'm going to give you a secret, which most of you already know, but I'm going to make it explicit. Have you ever had a conversation or a relationship with somebody that was just effortless? It's like you connected with this person and it felt like you had known them your whole life. Like they just finished your conversations and it's like you've been together for years, even though it may have only been an hour or a few minutes or whatever. Welcome to the structure of love. Structure of love happens with shared emotional experiences through time. Shared emotional experiences through time. Remember something. All emotional states are trance states. All a trance is a combination of two factors or two variables. Absorption and focus. Anybody here ever a little child? Anybody here ever a little child, a little kid?
Little?
Yeah, a little kid. Have you ever been a little kid?
Oh.
It's not a hard question. How many people, all right, if you have ever been a small child, raise your hands. If you're not sure, raise both hands. Obviously, we have people who can't listen. Okay. When you were little children, when you were a little child, how many people here played pretend? What did you play at, little lady? Tea. Did you play by yourself or did you have imaginary friends?
All of the above.
All of the above. How about you? What did you play at?
Secret agent.
Secret agent, cool. How about you?
Yes. G.I. Joe.
All right, how about you? No friggin' clue, okay. How about you?
Horses.
Horses? You played horses?
Played with horses.
You played with horses? And did the horses talk to each other?
No.
No? Did you talk to the horses?
Yes.
Did they answer back?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you asleep? Say no. Say no. Were you hypnotized? Were you completely absorbed in the experience? Were you focused? Congratulations, you're in trance. That's all hypnosis is. It's any process that takes you from one state of mind to another with a change in absorption and focus. All emotional states are just that. Combinations of absorption and focus. The more absorbed you become, the more focused you become, the deeper in trance you go. How many people here, when I asked, have you ever been a little kid, flash back to a memory when you were a little kid? Was it a pleasant memory? How you guys feeling right now? Feel pretty freaking good, don't you? Who were you looking at when you felt that way? In NLP, in hypnosis, we have a saying, we have a proverb. Anything that presupposes a trance causes a trance. All memories are trances. Every time I ask you to go into your head and find a memory or an experience, you're literally changing your level of absorption and focus. You're also changing the direction. I don't need to go, look at my watch. That's a very wimpy trance. Best trances are emotional trances. Best trances are feeling trances because they feel good, right? Now, weird things happen when you go into trance. Your sense of time changes. Kind of like when you're talking to somebody and all of a sudden that connection hits and it feels like you've known them your whole life, even though it might have only been a few minutes. And you remember what that feels like. Absolutely. And you remember what that feels like. How many of you, other people are going, as I'm talking to her, and following along in trance? Okay? You cannot have somebody go back and remember an experience and describe it to you without them going back into that state that they were in. Now, the most powerful, foundational drivers of our personality and behavior, the things that are most important to us, happened during childhood. In hypnosis terms, we would call that pseudo-orientation in time, aka time distortion, or if you want to get really classical hypnosis, age regression. When you have gone through this process, the way I've taught you, what will happen is you will start from a very superficial, non-invasive level of interaction that's safe, doesn't set off any bells or whistles. You will transition into something where people actually create profound connection. You get to find out what the building blocks of that person's identity are, what's most important to them in a way that they know that you can give it to them. You'll find out how they move through the world, and if they have a life that you want to be part of, then you have a decision to make. Are you ready to set the hook? Are you ready to make sure that this person is 100% in your camp? You better be sure, because when you start bringing up this information, they will go back into those memories. They will bring back those states, and the longer they talk about it, the more they will link those feelings to you, and the more you will inject yourself into those memories, unconsciously. And they will feel like they've known you their whole life.
Say that again.
No. And they will feel like they've known you their whole life.
So
Yes.
you can tap into those feelings and emotions and regrets. Feel that way.
You don't have to do anything other than let them talk about it. But here's the key, through the whole experience, pay attention to the words that they use, the phrases that they emphasize, and most importantly, when you talk about your experiences, use their words. That's it. Avoid becoming self-absorbed. Now remember something. The harder you have to work to get into a relationship, the harder you have to work to maintain it. So the smart way to do this process is to do a values inventory of the people you're interacting with and make sure they match. Right? If he starts talking about the things that are important to him and they create a visceral, less than, something where you have to actually distort how you perceive reality a lot to make it fit, keep in mind you may have to keep that kind of modification throughout the whole relationship in order to maintain the quality of the relationship. So one of the things we want to sort for is how close are they? How much do I have to tweak who I am and what I do to match it? Okay? That make sense? Yes?
Okay, this process has actually been used successfully on me several times in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I become really, as you would say, very lost in love.
Mm-hmm.
Several times with people who ended up being very fucked up people.
Yes?
So that requires, you just made me aware, it's sort of liberating in a way to see that this was just basically a process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a little bit interested in how to counter.
Become aware of it. You just
Well,
did.
You're right, but it was played masterfully up
Mhm.
to a point.
Well, was it played masterfully or was it just something you didn't know to look for?
That's a good question.
Bottom line, what's your name?
David.
David. I like you already. Here's the thing, guys. It's not about how masterfully you were played, all right? If you don't understand this process, if you're not aware of this level of communication and interaction, you have no way to know. I can be very blatant, like really rough with this stuff, and it'll still work. You may not be able to, now you guys are sensitized to it, but out in the regular world, nobody knows what you're doing. They have no idea there's a system that you're following or a protocol. You can be very rough with it and still pull it off because it's just about states. It's just about, people are droning through the world asleep. Your problem won't be getting people into trance. Your problem will be getting them out. Most people are moving through the world in states and trances that are just not useful. That's why they're stuck. My job as a hypnotist is not putting people to sleep. It's waking them up. Okay? But that's the process. Okay? Yes?
I had a question about the childhood part.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask a question, to enter into this level of relating, and something that's like triggered, like a negative.
Beautiful question. I was hoping somebody would ask, because normally I have to bring it up myself. Remember, one of the things that you have to do is you have to ask questions and get the responses you want. If you, like going back to level 2 questions, if I ask the guy about his relationship, or about his work and his possibilities, and he starts, and I'm asking a positive question, what inspired you, and I'm getting less than positive responses or completely opposite direction, that's telling me right away what kind of life he leads. If you ask somebody to tell you about where they grew up, who were their friends, what did you like to do, what did you play at, and they start talking about how their dad used to take them out behind the woodshed and beat them with a broom, you have to make a decision. Most of you will make the wrong one. Most of you will try to fix it. Most of you will sort for the one with potential and try to fix it. And you'll spend the rest of your life trying to fix somebody who doesn't want to be fixed. Or, if you do manage to fix them, you will rapidly lose interest in them and move on anyway.
Here's where that fucked up part came in.
The fucked up part. Technical term, fucked up, okay.
Because a person is not inclined to expose that when they're trying to attract you.
Mm-hmm.
But once you're comfortably ensconced in a relationship with them, that stuff becomes prominent. Now, now you're hooked into a person that attracted you this way, and you're aware this is now a very deep anchor in your system, and suddenly this is where the person feels comfortable enough to show you who they really are.
Okay.
Down the line. And I guess all you're saying is now is you got to break that spell.
Yes.
People have a choice to answer that question, right? Everyone has challenges in their childhood. If you choose to bring up the challenging part or the positive part.
And again, that tells you about them. Right? And this is the bottom line. Remember, this isn't just about attracting somebody or generating attraction. It's about sorting them. It's about understanding their world. Because how people have done things in the past is a direct indicator of what they will do in the future regardless of the context. I used to be Al Bundy. You guys know who Al Bundy is? I worked for 3 different shoe stores. I was the top salesman each time. Do you know what I did? I sold people what they already bought. Every time a woman would walk in, come over and look at the pumps, first thing I'd do, look at what she had on her feet. And it didn't matter if she was wearing tennis shoes. I'd walk in, I'd look at what she had on her feet. She'd walk over, she'd say, can I see this pump, this pink pump in a size 7? I'd say, size 7 coming up. I'd walk back, I'd grab the pink pump in a size 7, and a pair of the latest model of tennis shoes that was closest to what she had on her feet. Guess what they bought?
You aren't going to get back to the values inventory.
What specifically about the values inventory thing do you want to know?
Well, because if you have like several suitors and you're trying to sort them out, really where you want to put it, that energy towards, then what kind of values should you share? Is it just more values, or?
Well, the more values you share and the more rules you share, the more your prospects are for long term. But now if you share a lot of values but there's no chemistry, there's no, sexually he's as boring as toast, then you got a whole different set of issues, right? So you got to make sure that you put that vibe in there, that sensual vibe in there.
So can that be fixed?
Yes, everything can be fixed. The question is, do you want to be the therapist?
I know, but the no chemistry thing, I always wonder if that can come with time or not.
It can.
I
Well,
really
anything.
don't have the answer.
Again, it really depends on how much time, energy, and effort you want to invest.
Shouldn't be that hard.
Again, if you understand how to match somebody's maps and processes, yeah. I regularly used to teach non-orgasmic women how to have massive multiple orgasms. Easy. You can all do it. Even with your clothes on. Okay? Guys, same thing. Don't think I can get you either. Okay? I live in a great world, But anyway, bottom line is when you sort for values, you want to sort for shared experiences, things that are analogs to your life. But in that process, don't let yourself put the critical factor completely on hold. If they start telling you about all these wonderful things, how their relationships start, and then they start lapsing into how they end, pay very close attention to that. Because that's going to tell you exactly what's going to happen in your relationship if you don't pay attention and you just drone through the process. Okay? We're coming on to the close of our evening. I promised you I'd have you guys out of here by 9:30. I lied.
Let's see the 7-step dance.
Yeah, we need the 7 steps.
You held that in front of us.
All right.
And you want
Ladies, pass out the forms. There are 7 stages, yes. Are we clear on the 3 magic questions, though? Okay. And trust me, you can get infinitely more sophisticated with this. But that's, yes, Gillian?
So, but, I mean, isn't it, if you're just meeting somebody for the first time, everybody in the initial dating stages, everybody's always putting their best foot forward? Are you really?
It'll fly right under the radar. They'll come out with it. Because the minute they start talking about themselves, their defenses go down. They don't realize the structure of what they're telling you is what you're sorting for, not the story. You're looking at, when you start parsing that information, you're looking for keywords that have a unique impact on their nervous system, and you're looking at the direction of their life, not the story and the rationalization. And if you've been to my lie detection meetup, the minute they try to change the story, those behaviors will jump out at you. The incongruity, especially if you're a woman doing this with a man, the incongruities will jump out at you left and right. So guys, when you can fake absolute sincerity, you got it nailed.
Anything you want, yeah.
All right. Those of you who don't know, I do see clients both for physical illness as well as emotional reasons. I do these small intensives on special topics. I also run a monthly mentoring program. It's a skill building program. It's not a certification track. It meets the third Saturday of every month, usually here. The next one is scheduled to meet May 17th. It is a paid group, it's not free. And the way it works is you come in on that day, and I literally go, Amanda, it's Amanda, right?
Yes.
What do you want to learn today? And she'll give me a list of things she wants to work on for her life, to make her life better. And I'll say, David, what do you want to learn today? And he'll say, I want to do this, 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 and this. I want to be better at this, this, and this. I'll say, John, what do you want to learn today? And he's been to some of them, so he's a good person to question about it. What's your name?
Maurice.
Maurice. And I'll say, Maurice, what do you want to learn? And I'll go through every single person in the room. And I'll take what you want to learn and what you want to take home, and I'll write it on the board. And I'll find all the connecting threads, and I will create the lesson plan on the spot, and for the next 4 hours, I will drill you on those skills until you own them. No holds barred, no topics off the books. As long as I know how to do it, I will teach you. Okay? And even if I don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out and teach you anyway. Okay? Normally, that program comes out to roughly $200 a month, and which means basically $2,400 a year. But it's not like a contract. In this case, it'd be lump sum, it'd be $200, and you would get basically 36 hours of personal group training with me on anything you want. Okay? For those of you who want to try it out, $1,200 gets you the whole year. And you can write your own ticket.
Like what kind of things?
Pick something. Pick something. What do you want to learn? What do you want to do better? I can do that. Yeah. As long as you can have somebody who can teach you the physical skills, I can teach you how to model them and make them better. Okay? Now, that's a really way out there one, but it's sports, it's performance enhancement. Okay? I do that kind of work. I'm a martial artist. Actually, one of the reasons I got into hypnosis was to get better at martial arts. They used to nickname me the video sensei because I could literally take a video, watch it for a few hours, and go back to the dojo and reproduce the skill. Okay? It's a process they tried to model. I wouldn't get it. I lucked into it by accident, and when I learned NLP, I found out how to do it deliberately. But that's an extreme example. But most of what I do centers around some form of persuasion and influence, clearing out your crap, removing blocks, becoming better at whatever you want. Okay? That's a very global, very long-term thing. Some of you guys, that's too big a nut. That's too big a chunk. It's too much of a commitment. I get it. What you got in your hands, though, is something that's a little bit more relevant to what we've done tonight. May 23rd, 24th and 25th, we're going to do an extension of this class. It's called the Real World Romance Attraction Amplifier Weekend Intensive. This is a course where I take what you've learned tonight and I put it on steroids. I will teach you about status. I will teach you about validation. I will teach you how to generate unstoppable attraction in people, both verbally and non-verbally. I'll teach you how to be the most fascinating person in any room and in any person's life. We'll talk about we talk about those blocks that keep holding you back. We'll get rid of them. Okay? You want to know how to go up and really start to make everything you say absolutely compelling and attractive and just create that absorption and focus that makes people want to listen to you. I'll show you how to do that. Okay? I'll show you let me just read this so I don't have to do it off from memory. How to program your own mind in just minutes a day to zero in on successful situations, goals, and events that you want and automatically create the behaviors that result in you actually getting it. Remember, everything human beings do has a code. It has a process. Once you understand your code, you gain the ability to change it. Okay? Tremendous, tremendous power here. I'm going to teach you something that I don't have time to teach you tonight. There are 7 personality traits that people... You ever meet somebody who's just ridiculously lucky? Like if a safe would fall out of the sky, it would fall on your car open and the money would fall on this guy. Don't you hate those motherfuckers? Right? Psychologists decided to study lucky people. And they found out something. It wasn't metaphysical. There were 7 key personality and behavioral traits that all lucky people have. And if you adopt those traits, you will start generating more and more opportunities and success on multiple levels of your life simultaneously. In the Attraction Amplifier weekend, it's not just about physical attraction, it's about the law of attraction. I'm going to show you what these traits are and how to wire them in using NLP, hypnosis, and the code. Now, normally to do this training, I would charge at least $1,297. Anybody who wants to come in for this 2 days, you will be my little puppies, okay? And I promise you will not leave the same person you came in with. You came in as. If you want to jump in tonight, $197. But wait, there's more. Gotcha. Anybody who really jumps on it, back there's a stack of DVDs that was from the very first self-hypnosis, self-mastery supercharger. It's all about removing your blocks, removing your limitations, how to do self-hypnosis, how to create powerful hypnotic imagery that changes you from the inside out. A lot of the things that we're going to be teaching for attraction purposes are on those DVDs. For anybody who wants to jump in tonight, I will include the 2 DVD set absolutely free. I normally sell that for $197 just for the DVDs. Yours free. And I'll give you the whole package tonight if you sign up before you leave tonight. See that lovely young lady who drew the hearts earlier? $197. Okay, that's pretty cool. But now I've got more. Some of you, when you came in, I talked to you about the stress survey you have. And I said if you filled it out and turned it in, you would each get a 30-minute consultation free with me. Normally to walk in my door is anywhere from $175 to $350 an hour. Anybody who fills out the stress survey and turns it into my lovely office manager manning the camera, Candy, you'll get a 30-minute consultation with me. New clients only, please. If you've already had a couple of consultations, please. I have people that like potato chips. They just can't stop touching it. Right? I can always have them fun. But just turn it in to Candy, and she'll get you on the schedule, and our people will call you, and we'll get you rocking and rolling. I don't promise to necessarily fix your problem, but I will tell you how to go about it. Right? So you get 30 minutes of my time for whatever you want. You got a physical problem, we'll talk about it. You got an emotional problem, we'll talk about it. You got a strategy problem, a skill you need to learn, we'll talk about it. Everybody have fun? I'm going to hang out until 10 o'clock, 20 after as I sit down. I'll be happy to answer any questions people have. In the meantime, please eat all the candy back there. I do not want to take it home, but I do weight loss, so if you eat too much, go play. Thanks a lot. Hope you had a good time.